Our hero starts the story breaking into a cold sweat and totally tense about the situation. At that moment, a blonde girl confesses to him and says she also really likes manga. Meanwhile, another young woman with red hair holds his hand and asks how things got to this point. Right after, a third girl wearing a kimono appears and says she just wanted to live a normal life. And to wrap it up, a blue-haired girl shows up all excited, but all of this was just a dream. Suddenly, he jumps awake and points forward without understanding anything. The young man named Kim Yu-sung wakes up in a panic and yelling for his teacher. His heart is racing and he looks to the side calling for his master. He is in a hospital bed all bruised up and wonders where he is. A man then asks if the young man remembers what happened before the accident. A memory of a fire comes to his mind where he tried to save his research data. With that, the boy realizes he is in a hospital but does not understand why. Suddenly, his eyes widen as he notices something very strange. The young man then grabs a reflective object to see his own face. At that moment, he gets startled because that face is not his own. With his memories all mixed up, he starts to put the pieces together of what happened. The guy then realizes that he ended up possessing someone else's body. The original owner was Kim Yu-sung, a second-year high school student of Japanese and Korean descent. Apparently, the young man was in a car accident and was unconscious for a few days. And with that, the protagonist who lost his life in the fire took over the boy's body. The guy is relieved because he finally escaped his awful life as a grad student. Even so, he thinks he should not jump to conclusions because something could go wrong. Upon arriving at his new house, he wonders how he is going to adapt to this life. His new mom then asks him to get plenty of rest, and the guy goes upstairs. He reaches the door of his new room and feels like his body already knows the place. The young man feels weird invading someone else's room and enters carefully. But as soon as he opens the door, the boy is totally shocked by what he sees. His eyes widen and he cannot believe what is right in front of him. Inside the room, there are several anime posters and decorations. Then he realizes that the original owner of this body was a huge otaku. The guy is left speechless seeing that the room belongs to an anime fan. He is so shocked by the situation that even a strand of his hair stands up. Sitting on the floor, he wonders if he will actually be able to live as Kim Yu-sung. The hero thinks that if he acts differently, his parents will notice, but he knows nothing about this stuff. Not knowing what to do, he looks at a poster on the wall and notices something odd. Looking closer, he sees that the character on the poster looks like Kim Yu-sung. With this discovery, the young man loses his balance and falls backward in shock. He cannot believe that poster is from such a specific manga. The boy starts to break into a cold sweat, thinking that maybe this is a trap for him. To make sure, he checks the bookshelf and sees all kinds of manga from action to romance. He then picks up a book with a very peculiar otaku cover and a catchy title. The protagonist finds the character on the cover familiar and soon remembers where he saw him. He remembers Scramble Love, a shonen manga that sold 10 million copies. The work followed the classic romantic comedy formulas and was highly praised for it. However, the ending of the original story ignored all the main heroines. The fandom exploded in anger with the unexpected ending where the childhood friend won. Finding the story familiar, he decides to give it a read to see if it is the same thing. While reading, the guy gets more and more shocked and says, "That is a crime." The reading leaves him so outraged that he cannot hold back and lets out a yell. The next day, he is at a restaurant and admits the book was fun and he pulled an all-nighter. His mom then shows up and asks him to take the customer's orders for a moment. He responds in a weird way, but she does not notice, and the guy is surprised at work. Being the son of the restaurant owner, he puts on the apron and greets the customers. Suddenly, he looks at the newcomers with an expression of total surprise. The guy has a strong feeling that he has seen those two people somewhere before. The blonde girl is excited and says she is going to feed him, and that he cannot escape. She then shouts the guy's name, who seems a bit worried about the whole situation. Kim Yu-sung is stunned to hear that name and starts connecting all the dots. He then realizes that those two are the characters from the manga, Scramble Love. In disbelief, the protagonist confirms that the guy is Sakamoto Ryuji, the hero of the work. He stands there looking at them and realizes this is not a normal possession. With his heart racing, the young man understands he is inside the story of a book. To keep from losing his mind over the situation, he decides to organize everything that happened. The guy remembers he was a student, but after a fire, he took over Kim Yu-sung's body. And to make matters worse, Kim Yu-sung is just a background character in the manga, Scramble Love. All of this because of that work he spent the whole night reading non-stop. The problem is he never actually reads Scramble Love, and has no advantage in this. Even being inside a book, the world feels very real and the romance might continue. So he decides that if he does not get involved with the protagonist Sakamoto Ryuji, everything will be fine. With this in mind, the young man plans to live a quiet life as a regular extra. To do so, he dedicated himself and read all the books in the room to pass as Kim Yu-sung. He even enrolled in a private school far away and got a full scholarship. After getting into the school, the guy also joined the student council activities. But even with all that, his possession was never undone, and he will have to live this life. The hero thinks that just studying is not enough and considers investing in stocks, but he is broke. Then another idea pops into his mind and he decides he is going to start working out. So he reaches his second year in high school with a new look and feeling way more confident. The first year flew by, and during those months he trained his body hard. The young man pushed himself to the limit in his workouts and lifted weights like crazy. He worked out non-stop every single day and his body got incredibly muscular and shredded. All this dedication and effort were made just so he could protect himself. After all, this is a manga world and things like aliens and ghosts could show up. That is why he prepared for an uncertain future and not just for vanity or power. The guy managed to get through the first year without any issues and plans to keep it that way. But everything he told himself a moment ago might go down the drain right now. A girl says good morning, and that is Yaguchi Maya, the main heroine of the original story. The blonde guy replies that is not a good morning, and that is Sakamoto Ruji, the original protagonist. The situation is terrible because our hero ended up in the exact same class as Sakamoto Ruji. He is furious because he chose a school far away just to avoid the protagonist. To make things worse, he gets a bad feeling and hears Ruji say he lost his wallet. Ruji also mentions he bumped into a girl, and our hero is already getting tense about the story. At that moment, the teacher walks into the room and tells everyone to be quiet and go back to their seats. He says he knows the first day is chaotic but asks everyone to settle down a bit. The master then holds his clipboard and says he has an important announcement for the class. Everyone gets very curious and eager to know what the teacher has to say. Right then he announces they have a new transfer student and asks her to come in. With that, a beautiful blonde girl slowly starts to enter the classroom. The new student walks in with a bright smile on her face and full of energy. The other students are amazed by her looks and the master scolds them. The teacher asks them to be nice to the newbie and invites her to introduce herself. The girl introduces herself as Kishimoto Rika and says she likes sweet cats and taking naps. The protagonist watches from afar and thinks it is obvious she would be in the hero's class. He already figured another heroine from the story would show up as a transfer student. Even without having read the work, he knows Rika took first place in the popularity poll. This happened even though in the end she was not the girl who ended up with the protagonist. The teacher then points to an empty desk and tells the new student to sit down. The chosen spot is right next to Sakamoto, who is not even paying attention to the class. Suddenly, the blonde guy looks at the girl and recognizes her as the young woman from the morning. She also recognizes him instantly and points at him, completely shocked. The young woman remembers the bump and calls him a creep in front of the whole class. The teacher finds the situation amusing and says it is even better if they already know each other. The girl walks to her seat annoyed and muttering about her classmate's audacity. She then sits next to him with a look of disgust, and the guy is left confused. The young woman turns her face away and huffs, showing all her contempt for him. Sakamoto is totally shocked by the new student's attitude and reaction, but right then she tosses his wallet on his desk and asks if it belongs to him. Seeing this whole scene, our hero thinks he needs to have 2 years of patience with this. Time passes and the class goes on with a tense vibe between the two new classmates. A classmate approaches and asks for the manga magazine he was reading. He hands it over and thinks he does not want any plot twists since he is doing everything for the future. He thinks that even without reading the work, he can predict what is going to happen. But he knows manga never follow the expected script, so he needs to stay alert. That is why he always read the latest magazines to stay up to date on the cliches. Suddenly, Ruji asks Rika to talk in private and the mood gets tense. He says he needs to speak with her about what happened earlier that morning. The girl is surprised by the request but ends up agreeing to chat for a minute. Our hero watches the scene from afar and wonders what is going on between them. So, to avoid raising suspicion, he says he is going to the bathroom, but he's actually going to follow them. With his excuse ready, he walks down the hallway following the main couple. The guy then opens the door with a serious expression, ready to find out everything. His presence is so intimidating that a dark purple aura appears around him. With this, the other students are terrified of his appearance and start trembling with fear. They even start spreading rumors that the young man is a dangerous guy or a syndicate member. The guy thinks he attracts trouble, but his intimidating presence makes it easier for him to slip away. He hurries to spy on their events since he has already studied all the rom-com patterns. But for his predictions to come true, he needs to see everything up close and gather data. In his mind, he knows that at school there is only one place for a boy and a girl to be alone. And with total certainty, he already knows exactly what that single possible spot is. Just as he predicted, the couple went to the back of the school to have their private chat. There Ruji bows in a desperate apology and says he did not mean it. Hiding in the bushes, our hero realizes that it is an apology trap. He cannot believe Ruji did that embarrassing pose, but he already expected it from a hero. The blonde girl just watches him with her arms crossed and a very annoyed expression. But she cannot hold it in and ends up letting out a little laugh at the whole situation. Right after, the young woman bursts into laughter, finding the scene hilarious. She then says with a playful smile that he is much more innocent than she thought. The young lady then explains that she was not mad because she knows what happened was an accident. The reason she acted that way was because she found his shocked face funny. So he understands he fell for the prank of the most popular girl in school, Kishimoto Rika. Our hero then concludes that this was her first encounter event with the hero. The guy analyzes the scene and concludes that it is a classic romantic comedy opening, but suddenly a female voice calls his name and he turns to see who it is. A girl with a fan asks what a future student council secretary is doing there. She then accuses him of doing something shameful like spying on girls. That is Seiji Kumiko, the head of the council and a character with a classic mean girl vibe. However, he remembers she is a tragic character who ended up just being a rival in the story. Even so, he cannot let any heroine get involved with the protagonist. To get out of that situation, he quickly picks up a small tree branch from the ground. The guy says he was looking at the branch and that it would look good in the council room. Kumiko gets suspicious and questions the idea of putting that in the council room. She stares at him with a suspicious look, not really buying his lame excuse. With it, the young woman takes the branch from his hand with a very delicate and unexpected gesture. Our hero is a bit surprised by her attitude and does not understand her reaction. She says that since he was the one who picked it up, she will at least put it in the meeting room. He says thanks and is shocked that his nonsense excuse actually worked. The young lady then asks what brings him there since the start of the term is very busy. She reveals she wants to have lunch with the council officers and gave him a special chance. So the girl tells him to hurry to the cafeteria before the seats run out. The protagonist is confused and says there is nothing there that would suit her taste. With a smile, she says the guy really does not know her at all. The young woman then asks if he is implying she does not understand the culture of regular folks. Kumiko remembers a pork rice bowl she ate and says it is not a problem. He feels like she is insulting them behind their backs and bragging about her wealth. The guy then informs her that the school cafeteria does not serve that kind of dish. She asks what they have and he replies that there is a similar dish called gyudon. The young lady gets a bit disgusted by the name and thinks it sounds a little wrong and gross. With disgust, she asks if she really has to eat that and seems quite reluctant. The hero teases her and asks if she was not just bragging about being different from the others. At that moment, Akai Shinjiro, the vice president of the council, shows up and finds her. The guy with glasses recognizes Kim Yu-sung and seems to understand the whole situation. The vice president yells at our hero and questions him about his absence from the council. Akai then reveals that the poor president skipped her meal just to look for him. The guy is confused and does not understand why she would do something so drastic for him. With her face all red, the girl denies everything and says she never mentioned she was sad. The vice then steps in front of her and says he will no longer tolerate this disrespect. He makes a pledge of loyalty and the young woman hurries him, saying her steak will get cold. Akai then drags the girl away and warns that if he keeps this up, the Akai family will not sit still. Our hero is left behind completely lost and without understanding anything that happened. With the end of this confusion, time passes and the school day finally comes to a close. After class, the guy goes to the subway station so he can head back home. He reflects that the day of the hero event is when the story truly begins. Thanks to his training, everyone avoids him, and his plan to be an extra is working. If he keeps this up, there will be no reason for him to get involved with the protagonist. The station panel then shows that it is 10 minutes until the next train arrives. While waiting, he goes to a vending machine, but the can ends up dropping. With his drink in hand, he thinks he just needs to live like a normal extra and everything will be fine. But right when he believes everything is going well, a hand grabs his arm. The young man turns surprised and curious to see who interrupted him. To his absolute shock, the person there is the new transfer student Kishimoto Rika. The protagonist is stunned and wonders why on earth she is standing right in front of him. The girl says she was worried and is glad she found him so fast. She then steps closer and asks if he knows how to get to a certain place. He knows the info, but what puzzles him is how she knows his name. With a smile, the young woman points to the name tag on his uniform. Rika then calls him Kim Kun and says his name is written right there. The guy feels awkward because he had completely forgotten about that little detail. The girl lets out a little giggle seeing his reaction and how forgetful he is. She then says he is a good person and that she knew it from the start. The protagonist is intrigued by the compliment and wonders why she thinks that. Confused, he cannot understand what the girl is talking about or what she wants with him. He asks what she meant by that and how she managed to remember him. The girl says he has a weird energy and that it would be impossible not to notice him. She heard rumors that he fought a gang and was recruited for baseball. And because he was casual with the queen of the class, she was sure he was a cool guy. The guy thinks that in such a short time she has already misunderstood him completely. He panics because out of all people he ended up getting involved with one of the heroines. The young man thinks her kindness explains her fame and considers whether he should scare her off. At that moment, the girl calls out to him and pulls him out of his deep thoughts about the future. The young lady complains that he did not reply to her compliment and the guy awkwardly apologizes. She then asks what his answer is and the guy just thanks her for the nice words. With that response, the young woman flashes a kind smile and continues her chat with him. He says others might misunderstand him, but she will see who he really is one day. The guy mentions he might look scary, but he is actually pretty cool. With a bright smile, she offers to be his friend until everyone else understands him. The protagonist stays quiet, processing the blonde girl's unexpected offer. He realizes that scaring her will not work and decides he will play along for now. But to keep up his disguise as a background character, he accepts and says he is counting on her. The young woman smiles happily that it worked, and he thinks she can fool herself all she wants. She then remembers what she wanted to ask and shows a piece of paper with an address. The girl says it is her new house, but she is totally lost with the subway lines. He notices it is a wealthy neighborhood and realizes she also has the rich girl trope. The guy says it is close to his house, so they will take the same train, and she gets excited. Her eyes light up at the news and she gets super hyped about the coincidence. She asks if his house is close and he says it is only 2 stops away. The young woman thinks it is destiny, but our hero thinks this is a huge problem. But suddenly he stops and gets an idea to use this situation to his advantage. The guy prepared himself to survive but has a fatal flaw: he never read the word. That is why the info coming straight from Rika is more accurate than from an extra. So his plan is to become her friend to get information and maybe give some advice. With an evil smirk, he thinks a small change like this will not mess up the plot. As a friendly gesture, he offers to buy her a drink from the machine. The guy says it is a thank you for being his friend, and the young lady picks a cola. She then pops the can open and chugs the soda eagerly. With a smile from ear to ear, the girl says there is nothing better than soda. He asks if she really likes cola, and the girl says she has not had it in ages because of a diet. The protagonist gets curious and asks about this diet she mentioned. The young woman then shows her phone with a picture of herself dressed in model clothes. She reveals she used to be a magazine model, and that is why she needs to take such good care of her body. The guy points out she looks different, and she denies it, saying it is not makeup. He changes the subject and says the train is here, but she complains that is cheating. With the train pulling into the station, their little argument gets cut short. Once inside the car, some people comment on the hero's tough guy look. Everyone on the train gets scared and steps away from him, creating a big empty space. The girl jokes that thanks to him they found a shortcut, but he disagrees. The young man then pulls out the subway map to figure out how to get his new friend home. He guides her through the station, but she gets a bit lost and cannot keep up with him. When the train stops at his station, the young lady asks if he is abandoning her. He lets her know he is getting off there and that her station is 2 stops away. Before the doors close, the blonde girl calls his name one more time. She says goodbye and tells him she will be counting on him tomorrow too, and the doors close. Standing alone on the platform, he wonders what she meant by tomorrow too. The protagonist stands there not understanding the direction things are taking. The next day at lunchtime, the students happily head out to the cafeteria. The guy is alone outside and realizes he forgot his lunch at home. But luckily he finds a lunchbox full of kimbap in his backpack. With his chopsticks, he picks up a kimbap roll, ready to finally eat lunch. Suddenly someone calls out to him and he turns around surprised to see who it is. It was Rika, who found him there all alone, and she seems quite worried about the situation. She then asks with a pitying look if he eats alone every single day. He explains it is so he does not bother the others, but she insists he eat with someone. He says it is easier this way and that the others need time to get used to him. The young lady feels awkward and says she will wait, but does not feel like he is truly alone. At that moment, she gets a brilliant idea and her eyes widen with the new discovery. The girl looks at his lunchbox with a lot of curiosity and interest in the different food. She recognizes the kimbap from dramas and excitedly asks if she can try a piece. The guy agrees, a bit surprised, and wonders how she changes moods so fast. She then asks if she should cry and invites him to eat lunch together from now on. He warns her he does not bring kimbap every day, and the young woman gets annoyed, saying that is not why. The guy thinks he ended up getting closer to her and that her company is not weird at all. The young woman then grabs one of the rolls of her chopsticks and eats it with great delight. She loves the taste and asks if his family really owns a Korean restaurant. Sitting on the bench, he says thanks, and she asks him to thank his mom for the food. The girl then offers a piece of her omelette in exchange for a little more kimbap. The guy accepts the trade and grabs a piece of omelette from her lunchbox without hesitating. With the chopstick, he brings the food to his mouth to try the Japanese dish. But as soon as he tastes the food, his expression changes to one of pure shock and amazement. In his mind, he imagines someone dumping a jar of sugar and thinks it is way too sweet. The guy asks how much sugar she put in, and the girl replies she just added what felt right. He says sweets are bad for you and that next time he will make a Korean omelet without sugar. The girl asks what he puts in it, and the young man replies he uses salt, leaving her shocked. She calls him a weirdo, but he thinks her taste buds are the broken ones for liking it sweet. The mood gets a bit tense between the two, and an awkward silence takes over the spot. Suddenly he looks toward the parking lot and sees the student council president and her vice. The president looks quite nervous and agitated about something that is going on. Rika also notices their presence and looks in the same direction as her friend. In her mind, the president thinks the heavens might forgive inappropriate relationships between students, but as the student council president, she would never allow such a thing. Our hero is left clueless and wonders what she is talking about. The vice then says that a boy and a girl eating alone is an inappropriate relationship. He then confronts the guy and accuses him of making excuses after being caught red-handed. The hero denies the accusation and says he is not making excuses for the situation. Rika then says that even so, meeting up every lunch is kind of weird. The president gets all flustered and stutters, asking if she wants to tell her something. With that, Rika remembers and points at her, calling her the gloomy president. The black-haired young lady is completely confused and shocked by that nickname. Rika explains the rumor that she walks alone and says she now understands why. Very angrily, the president yells that her uniform protects the council's dignity. The blonde tells her to just accept it because everyone calls it cosplay and there is no problem with that. The president is devastated to learn that the students make fun of her and call her a cosplayer. Rika watches the other girl's reaction and realizes she went too far with the joke. The young woman then says she will let it slide, but warns that one day she will be back. Embarrassed, she runs away and her vice goes after her without understanding what happened. The guy with glasses yells for her to wait and the two quickly vanish from sight. Rika then asks her friend what she did wrong and he says he has no idea. The bell rings, signaling the end of lunchtime, and everyone heads back to class. After class, our hero is sitting alone at his desk, deep in thought. A female voice calls out to him, and he looks to the side to see who it is. Rika shows up with her backpack and asks why he's not gone home yet. She notices the club guide, and he says he wants to join one since he has free time now. The girl then invites him to go check out a few clubs together that day. She explains it is better to see them in person, and the guy thinks about the idea. He agrees and says they should start right away, and the young woman gets excited. The guy then reveals his plan to visit all the clubs, and Rika is shocked. With an evil smirk on his face, he says he has a reason for doing that. He is curious to find out how far his strength can take him in sports. With this goal in mind, their first stop is the soccer club. There, one of the players kicks hard and the ball flies toward the goal. But the ball goes way off, and the goalie complains about the player's terrible aim. Two troublemakers then complain that they cannot score a single goal on the field. The club members get annoyed with them and tell the two to stop getting in the way. The troublemaker gets ready to kick and tells them to watch because it is not hard at all. One of the players then calls them out, and the punk asks who he is talking to. Suddenly, the soccer team captain shows up, and the two are shocked by his presence. With a serious look, the captain asks if they can clear the field for practice. They recognize him as Ryohei, the third-year captain, and get very scared. With that, the two quickly apologize and say they were already leaving the area. One of the players thanks the captain because the troublemakers were bothering him. The team leader then asks about the freshmen, and the guy says no one stood out. The captain is worried because they want to win nationals but lack talent. He thinks only a strong rookie could completely change the team's results. Meanwhile, the troublemakers walk away from the field, still pretty mad about the situation. One of them suggests going back and crushing them, but the other tells him to go by himself. The friend then questions his dream of ruling the school and calls him a coward. The other says fighting is not just physical and that experience is what really counts. While walking, the punk ends up bumping into someone and gets furious about it. He turns around to complain but is shocked to see it was our hero. The protagonist then asks with a threatening look if he can repeat what he just said. The two recognize him and are paralyzed with fear, unable to say a word. They run away in a panic, screaming to escape and save their own lives. Rika and our hero stand there not understanding what just happened right in front of them. The other students comment that as expected he defeated the tough guys with just a look. The girl then scolds him and says he cannot go around picking fights with everyone. To her, just his glare is already a huge problem and it leaves him speechless. He realizes that being a normal background character is going to be a much harder task. One of the players is alone on the field organizing the balls for practice. He looks to the side and seems to have noticed something or someone approaching the field. At that moment, the protagonist and his new friend arrive and the player is stunned by the scene. He wonders why Kim Yu-sung is there and gets scared by his presence. The guy then grabs his teammate's shoulder to calm him down from the scare. The young man says there is no way someone like him would want to join the soccer club. The captain thinks he heard bad rumors, but now seeing the guy in person, everything makes sense. He is not just any punk, and with that physique, he is already at a national level. With that, the team leader steps forward to speak with the new visitor. He introduces himself as Kim Yu-sung, and the captain says he has heard a lot about him. Ryohei, the soccer club captain, welcomes him and asks what he wants. The protagonist says he would like to try out for the club and asks how it works. The captain is shocked because even though he is not much taller, he feels like a dwarf next to him. His muscles are so huge that not even his clothes can hide the bulk. With this new discovery, he figures that winning nationals is no longer just a dream. He then decides right then and there that he wants that guy on his team, no matter what. The hero asks if he is okay, and the captain apologizes and explains the entry. Try it. The test is quite simple, and a soccer ball is placed on the penalty line. The challenge is to kick the ball as hard as possible into the goal, but he only gets one shot. The guy then thinks about using all his strength since he only has one chance. With that in mind, he decides to go all out and gets ready for the ultimate kick. He focuses his energy and crouches to get as much momentum as possible. His muscles tense up and he gets ready to unleash 300 kilos of force. With a swift motion, he kicks the ball and a purple aura explodes from the power. His leg moves with incredible speed and hits the ball with precision. The kick is so strong that the ball turns into a blur of light and energy. The other players on the team are completely shocked by the scene they just witnessed. The captain says that was an insane kick and that he could not even see the ball. He looks at the open goal and cannot believe the speed of the kick. One of the players is terrified and wonders what on earth that was. Out on the field, the ball is totally destroyed and our hero wonders if he overdid it. He decides that soccer is off the table and asks Rika about other clubs. The young woman gets excited and the captain wonders if he is really going to every sports club. The rumor spreads and everyone is saying he is on his way to crush all the teams. Everyone gets hyped and a crowd forms so they do not miss the big show. In the middle of the crowd, a mysterious girl says he has finally made his move. Later at the basketball club, he shatters the backboard with a super powerful dunk. Over at the baseball club, his swing is so strong it almost hits one of the members. And at the tennis club, he leaves a crater in the court with the force of his racket swing. With that, Rika crosses a few more clubs off her list of sports to visit. The girl then celebrates that they managed to get through all of them in one fell swoop. The guy then asks his new friend how many clubs are still left on the list. With a mischievous smile, she says she finally understands what he wants to know. The young lady then pulls out a pair of glasses and gets ready to give a long explanation. She says she will answer using all the data she collected about the clubs. The protagonist is completely lost by her acting and does not understand a thing. The girl then explains that excluding the ones with no triads today, there are 3 left. The first is track and field, which builds the focus and endurance of its members. The second is swimming, which improves cardio and full body strength all at once. And the last one is kendo, which is meant to train discipline and mental toughness. Thus she wraps up her analysis saying there are 3 clubs still available. He thanks her for the explanation but says she did not need to go that far. The young woman then asks where they are heading next and offers to guide him. The guy changes the subject and asks if she has acted before, making her blush. He says she seems good at it, and the young lady gets nervous trying to explain herself. She says it is a slightly embarrassing topic for her to talk about, but she ends up admitting that in the past she did something very similar to acting. The protagonist is totally shocked and his mind starts racing with ideas. He gets a bad feeling and thinks this would break the rules of the genre. The guy dismisses the idea but decides it is better to find out everything in advance. Suddenly the girl grabs his arm to get his attention back. She then hurries him and tells him they need to get going since there are 3 clubs left. He notices how nervous she is and decides it is better not to push the issue. The young man suggests starting with kendo and the girl agrees to take him there. Upon arriving, they find a crowd of students gathered in front of the dojo doors. One of the students looks at his phone with a very surprised face. The crowd goes wild and announces that Kim Yu-sung has finally reached the kendo club. People mention he has already wrecked other clubs and is even scarier in person. A reporter from the school paper is too scared to get close and interview him. Right then Rika steps into the role of his manager and tells the reporter to speak with her. At that moment the dojo door slowly opens, revealing who is on the other side. The protagonist is a little surprised to see the figure standing before him. A girl calls him a delinquent and says he is just using the triads as an excuse. She then points her kendo sword at our hero with a serious look. That is Fuma Yukika, the club captain, and she says his winning streak ends right there. The crowd praises the captain for her bravery and for not backing down from the challenge. He says he is only there because he is interested in the club and asks her to explain the test. The captain likes his attitude and says he talks like a grown-up, and she likes that. She then readies her wooden sword and explains that the first strike wins the match. Yukika says she will fight him personally and invites him into the dojo. The other students get super hyped about the duel between the human weapon and the captain. The crowd cheers for the upperclassman to crush him and says this is a must-see show. Our hero thinks everyone is acting like he is the final villain of the story. Suddenly the captain lets out a powerful shout and orders everyone to be quiet. Her shout is so loud that all the students freeze and get scared. She then warns that the fight is strictly between the 2 of them, and no one else can enter. Yukika threatens that if anyone insists on coming in, she will fight them first. With that threat, all the spectators fall silent and become very afraid of the captain. Rika comments that this captain is on a totally different level from the others. Our hero agrees with his friend and recognizes the strength of this new opponent. He feels an immense pressure and realizes her aura is no joke. The protagonist then asks Rika to wait outside since he will be right back. With everything settled, he walks into the dojo alone for his big showdown. The captain asks if he is sure he does not need protective gear. He says he doubts they have anything in his size, and she takes off her armor too. The guy agrees but warns that he will not be held responsible if she ends up getting hurt. The girl laughs and says he says some very funny things as she grips her sword. She warns him that he will not even come close to touching her uniform and gets ready. With everything set, the duel between the 2 finally kicks off in the dojo. The captain charges with a swift strike and our hero blocks it with his sword. She praises his skills and says for street punk he is actually pretty good. But the young woman adds that in the end he is just an ordinary guy. He then dodges one of her attacks with a lightning-fast movement. The girl pushes forward and with her wooden sword she manages to break his. She then uses a flash technique to blind him for a split second. With her opponent blinded, she prepares to land the final blow and end the fight, but the guy manages to dodge at the last second, leaving the captain surprised. Our hero stays silent and just watches the girl with a serious look. She calls him a foolish boy and says he cannot break a simple magic circle. The captain then moves into attack, but the protagonist stays calm and still. He then reaches out and manages to stop her sword using just his fingers. With a look of pure shock, the guy reveals his true power and disarms her. The young lady is stunned and cannot believe what just happened. Our hero then grabs her sword and strikes her with a precise hit to the chest. She feels a massive pressure and does not understand what happened during the fight. The protagonist then wonders if she held back on purpose during the clash. The captain realizes she underestimated him and that if the fight continues she will be in danger. With that in mind, she decides she is going to end it all on her next attack. Using her clan's secret art, she charges forward for her final and most powerful strike. Our hero stands still waiting for her attack with a very calm expression. He then catches the blow with just one hand and a white light explodes on impact. The guy blocks the strike effortlessly, leaving the captain completely shocked. No one had ever withstood that technique, and everyone thought it was unbeatable. With a smile, she says his name ends right there and gets ready to strike. But suddenly she notices something off and her expression changes instantly. The girl is hit by a mysterious blow and lets out a cry of pain and surprise. She does not understand what hit her and wonders if it was some kind of killer aura. The captain then falls to the ground completely defeated and confused by what happened. In her hand she grips what is left of her wooden sword snapped in half. She then realizes it was not an aura, but a very powerful physical attack. The protagonist stands in front of her with his shirt ripped and his muscles showing. The next morning in the classroom, the students talk about the events from the day before. The rumor going around is that the kendo club got the worst of it, and the captain went to the hospital. Everyone believes he did all that to take over the school and become the top boss. The guy thinks that yesterday's mess really added fuel to the rumor mill. He also notices that Ruji's behavior has not changed, and he acts like nothing happened. Our hero is happy about this because if everyone lives their own life, everything will be fine. Suddenly, a hand touches the shoulder of the original protagonist of the manga's story. A red-haired girl calls his name and everyone in the room turns to look. She then yells angrily for him to leave the classroom immediately without hesitating. The students are confused and recognize her as Tojo Karen from the kendo club. Ruji asks why she is looking for him and what she wants with him. The young woman accuses him of laying a hand on the kendo club freshman and confronts him. He says it is a huge misunderstanding, but the girl does not buy his words. Another student then stands up and tells the red-haired girl to wait. The kendo club girl asks who she is, and the young woman defends herself against the accusation. She explains that some guys from the club dragged her into an alley against her will. And it was at that moment that Ruji showed up to save her from the troublemakers. The green-haired girl angrily asks if she still thinks it is his fault. With that, the other young woman understands it was not Sakamoto who caused all the trouble. She gets thoughtful and realizes the blame does not fall on him, but on her club members. But suddenly the girl's expression shifts and she points at the blonde guy. With her face entirely red, she asks him to be her boyfriend and says she will make him the happiest guy. The protagonist of the original work is completely shocked and speechless at the request. The other girl is also very confused and does not understand the situation at all. Ruji is left stunned as the red-haired young woman steps closer to him. Our hero watches the scene and thinks this confession attack is pretty brutal. Rika watches everything with shining eyes and lets out a squeal of pure excitement. She then shouts that Tojo Karen is so cool and admires her for her attitude. The red-haired girl's confession becomes the main topic and everyone gossips about what will happen. One of the students bets on Akushi, saying she is sweet and has a really nice body, but another classmate disagrees and says the tough girl who turns into a puppy is the best. Our hero watches it all from a distance and thinks people are still hyped up about what happened. He reflects that if the young lady had the courage to confess, the timing was perfect for it. Suddenly Rika calls him Ryu-chan and the guy gets a bit confused by the situation. She then quizzes him and asks who he thinks Sakamoto is going to end up dating. The guy says he has no idea and the girl complains that his answer is boring. But in his mind he knows that in the original story the hero would end up with his childhood friend. Suddenly Rika cuts him off and says she already knows who the protagonist is going to date. The blonde young lady reveals that in the manga Sakamoto ends up dating the redhead Tojo. But she sets a condition to be the only one giving love advice to her new friend. He asks if she is confident about that, and the girl brags about being the best counselor. Rika says people line up to hear her wisdom, and he thinks she is full of herself. The young woman gets annoyed and says she knows she is good at it, but the hero wonders why. With a cute face, she asks him to pay more attention to her and not to the others. The next day it is sunny out and a new school day kicks off. Upon arriving at the classroom, our hero opens the door to walk in. With a serious look, he peers inside the room and seems a little nervous. He then spots Tojo sitting alone and is surprised to see her there. A friend greets him and the guy asks why Tojo is in their classroom. The classmate explains that she bugged Sakamoto all weekend to apologize. The protagonist says that lunch is basically a date and his friend agrees with him. The guy then asks if he heard the rumor that she is the daughter of a big shot. He reveals that Tojo Karen is the daughter of the boss of the famous Dalsi Kai group. Our hero realizes it is an underground syndicate group and the friend confirms it is a mob. The guy says that is crazy, but the classmate notices he does not seem convinced at all. The friend then says that even if it is true, it changes nothing for them. With that, he jokes that he will start calling him boss, but our hero finds it pretty weird. The protagonist then figures that since they are living inside a manga world, something like the daughter of an underground boss could be completely real in that place. Suddenly Tojo shows up and insists that Sakamoto accept her apology. Right then, the original hero's childhood friend steps in and tells her to knock it off. The red-haired girl gets mad and yells that this has nothing to do with her. Other students cry about not being popular and the guy wonders if this is a good thing. Tojo's pursuit continues and she even barges in the classroom to demand the date. She does not let up and tracks him down even in the locker room to demand an answer. In the hallway, the young woman corners him and tells him he is eating with her this weekend. With that, Sakamoto cannot take it anymore and begs her to leave him alone. In the cafeteria, Rika asks our hero what he is going to do during Golden Week. He says he will help out at his family's restaurant, and she praises him for being a good son. The young lady then invites him to her house and the guy is surprised by the offer. She explains it is because he likes manga and she has plenty at home for them to read. With a smile, she says her dad has a collection that could fill a whole bookstore. The guy accepts the invitation and the girl excitedly tells him to call whenever he wants. The protagonist has a little spark in his mind and seems to have realized something. Rika thinks of something and her expression changes as a new idea pops into her head. He points out she is skinny but eats a lot, and the young lady says that is normal for her. She explains she does not gain weight easily and needs a big lunch so she does not snack. With a mischievous smile, the girl reveals that everything she eats goes straight to her curves. The guy is totally shocked and speechless at his friend's revelation. She calls him a weirdo and says it was all just a trap. The blonde girl chuckles at the situation, but suddenly her expression changes. Her eyes widen and she seems to have seen something very shocking and unexpected. Tojo sits down at their table and Rika is stunned by the other girl's presence. With that, the blonde young lady sees the perfect chance to act and stands up excitedly. She then turns to the red-haired girl and calls her by her name. The red-haired girl asks who she is, and the blonde introduces herself as Kishimoto Rika. She says Tojo seems to be having trouble and offers to help solve it. The redhead gets all flustered and stutters, not knowing what to say to Rika. She then admits she heard rumors that Rika is great at giving love advice. Tojo asks how she knew about her problem, and Rika says she is always chasing Sakamoto. The young woman gets embarrassed and grabs Rika, telling her to shut up, and our hero gets startled. The blonde girl says the timing is perfect because she also wanted to talk to Tojo. The redhead blushes and realizes the other girl wants love advice too. After class, our hero walks home and thinks Rika is having way too much fun. Then the blonde young lady makes plans to meet up tomorrow and the redhead agrees. He thinks that in the original story it was just a rivalry, but her attitude is strange. But he decides to stop thinking about it and goes to the gym to work out a bit. Arriving there, he is startled by the noise and sees everyone training like crazy in the place. He wonders why it is so loud and someone calls out his name. The guy turns around surprised and finds Fuma Yukika, the kendo club captain, there. With a shocked look, he recognizes her from the fight they had in the school dojo. The protagonist then asks if it is really her standing in front of him at the gym. She explains that the club does not give her enough of a workout, and she did not know he came here. He feels awkward and thinks her presence explains why the other members are so hyped. The guy also notices she is pretty enough to cause all that commotion. He asks if she lives nearby, and the young lady reveals she recently moved there. Our hero is surprised by the news, and suddenly someone shouts that this is great. The gym owner Nakayama Yujiro shows up and calls the protagonist boss. He then asks the guy to show Fuma how to train since they go to the same school. The owner whispers that the girl seems to like him and that he should take the chance. The guy says he will take it easy and thinks the owner got the whole thing completely wrong. The three of them stand there looking at the workout equipment in the gym. The owner suggests starting with 220 kilos, and Fuma is shocked by the weight. He calms her down and says he has never seen a beast like Kim Yu Sung in his 20 years doing this. With that, our hero grips the iron bar tightly, ready for the workout. His leg muscles flex with power and he gets ready to lift the weight. The gym owner smiles proudly at the guy's display of power. With a grunt of effort, he lifts the bar with impressive ease. The kendo captain is completely blown away by the strength she just witnessed. The owner says it is too light and bumps the weight up to 270 kilos. He manages to lift the new weight for 5 sets, and the two of them are stunned by the scene. The owner brags and calls him a beast, but the young lady thinks it is just absurd. She admits that kind of physique does not belong to a student and that he is a true monster. So she concludes he must possess the supreme yang physique she has heard about. This physique refers to a build with the combined yang energy of 100 men. Theory says that famous heroes from history and myths also wielded this power. She is certain of it because she fought him and felt his power up close in the dojo. With this discovery, she decides she needs to report the fact to that person. The next day, the group meets up in front of a traditional-style house. As they enter, they are welcomed, and the redhead seems very familiar with the place. The guy wonders if Tojo's family is really from the mob, and if this is normal around there. He thinks he cannot get used to the events in this world, and a man glares at him. The guy gets spooked by our giant hero's intimidating presence. He then accuses him of being a spy from another syndicate, and tells the young lady to step back. The redhead scolds him, saying her friends came to her house to help her out. Our hero gets frustrated and thinks he literally did nothing to scare him. Inside the house, the man apologizes for his subordinate's behavior toward him. The young man says it is fine and that this kind of misunderstanding happens to him a lot. He tries to slip out of the meeting, but Rika says a guy's opinion is important. She then tells Tojo that the best way to express her feelings is by cooking. The blonde calls herself a love expert, and our hero feels major secondhand embarrassment. Excitedly, she asks if they are ready to start cooking, and everyone agrees. Time flies by as they dive into the fun cooking lesson. With her face completely flushed, the redhead finally announces she has finished her dish. She proudly shows off the very first lunchbox she made, and Rika praises her effort. In a quick flashback of the lesson, our hero warns Tojo to be careful with the fire. But her food burns, and the guy thinks that was a pretty dangerous meal. Feeling hungry, he offers to cook, and the two girls are surprised by his offer. With a confident look, the protagonist tells them to leave everything to him. He then starts cooking, and a blast of fire shoots up from the pan, showing off his skills. The two girls drop their jaws, watching their friend's skills in the kitchen. In just a few minutes, he finishes the dish and announces the food is ready. The girls taste the food and are amazed by the delicious flavor of the dish. Rika asks when he got so good at cooking, and the guy explains it was during his first year. He says his mom used to wake up at dawn, but he felt guilty about it. That is why he started cooking, and Rika is moved by his story. The guy asks who makes her lunch, and the girl says it is her mom, and he teases her, Suddenly the blonde remembers she has something to give Tojo, and the other gets confused. She then hands over a gift and says she bought makeup for her new friend. Rika also wrote down some skincare routines and Tojo awkwardly thanks her. The young lady says they should start with the makeup and then go buy some clothes. Rika then points out that Tojo's usual school style is a bit weird. She adds that she dresses like an old man and Tojo gets furious at the comparison. Our hero smiles and the redhead says she will learn how to do her makeup for the date. Excited, the blonde tells the guy to wait while they freshen up a bit. He asks if he is going to be left alone and she says watching a girl transform is a crime. The two then head out for the makeup session, leaving our hero all alone. The guy is confused because she was the one who said a guy's opinion was important. Later that night he walks home and thinks the day turned out to be fun. Next to Rika, he roots for Tojo to actually get the date she wants so badly. Suddenly he stops and looks to the side, leaving the blonde girl confused. The guy asks to stop at a store so he can buy a manga magazine. He then grabs a copy of this week's issue with a very colorful cover. The young lady asks if he buys it every week and mentions her dad loves manga. He asks if she buys it too and the girl wonders if that makes her a good person. With her face blushing, she gets flustered and the guy confirms she is a good person. He then explains she gave it her all for Tojo and anyone who does that is good. At the compliment, the young woman gets completely embarrassed and looks away blushing. The protagonist does not understand her reaction and the girl seems pretty nervous. She says it is getting late and runs out of the store to head home. Left alone, the guy wonders what got into her and figures it might be a bathroom emergency. The next day at school, the sun is shining and another day of classes begins. In the hallway, the students whisper and stare in surprise at someone walking by. Sporting a new look, Tojo walks down the hall and everyone talks about how cute she is. The students wonder if there was a girl like that in school and notice her class. With a determined look, she holds a letter with a very elegant seal in her hand. The young lady then hands the letter to Sakamoto and challenges him to a date. The guy does not recognize her and asks who she is, making the girl mad. Time passes and the group meets up in Shibuya for the big shopping date. Rika praises the challenge letter and Tojo asks them to call her Karen now. The blonde agrees and also asks her new friend to call her Rika. In the women's clothing section, our hero feels like he is in a totally different world. In a flashback, Rika convinces him to tag along to help Karen with the outfits. The blonde young lady then finds a store called Marionette with a pretty dress. With that, she drags Karen into the store so they can try it on. Rika bombards her new friend with tons of clothes, leaving her pretty overwhelmed. With a smile, she pushes Karen into the fitting room to change quickly. The redhead says the style does not suit her and Rika decides to step in. She then steps closer to Karen and tells her friend to stay quiet and trust her. Outside, the guy wonders what they are doing in the fitting room. With trembling hands, the young woman holds the skirt of her beautiful new black dress. She steps out of the fitting room and says the skirt is too short, but Rika ignores her. Our hero then compliments her look and says the new outfit really suits her. Blushing, she thinks Tojo managed to pull off a complete transformation. After shopping, the group heads back to the Tojo clan's mansion, Karen's home. At the mansion, a meeting is taking place and the clan boss glares at his men seriously. This is Tojo Naoto, the sixth boss and also Karen's overprotective father. He is better known by his nickname, Sea of Red Naoto, which is pretty terrifying. The boss then slams a knife into the table, announces his daughter has found a suitor. His men get furious and wonder who the punk was who dared to do such a thing. The jealous father says he will not hand her over to a nobody and calls his assistant. He then asks the guy's name and his right-hand man confirms it is Sakamoto. The assistant reports it is Ruji Sakamoto from the same private school as the young lady. He goes on to say the young lady wanted to visit the beauty salon and that he drove her himself. To top it off, he shows her credit card history with lots of clothing stores. With this, he concludes she has a date and the father blows up with rage at the news. The boss screams Sakamoto's name and his henchmen try to calm the situation down. With hatred in his eyes, he orders anyone who is free to assemble this weekend. Their mission will be to shadow Karen and stop Sakamoto from trying anything funny. All the executives then confirm they will join the mission to protect the young lady. Meanwhile, our group is at a diner to grab a bite and rest up. Rika complains she is completely exhausted after the long day of shopping. She says she has no strength left to chew, but our hero notices she eats just fine. Karen says thanks for the help and Rika says it was nothing since they are great friends. The red-haired girl says that thanks to her the shopping trip was really fun. With that, she looks at the protagonist with a whole new perspective on who he is. The young woman asks if the burger is enough and offers to pay for more. She insists because compared to all the help he gave, that was nothing. In her mind, the girl thinks he looked like a thug but now sees him differently. He asks why she is staring at him so much and Rika jokes he has ketchup on his face. The girl falls for the prank and the blonde asks if she has picked the date spot yet. She says she is going to a cafe in the movies, but her friend has a much better idea. Rika then shouts that she is naive and Karen gets startled by her reaction. The blonde explains she will not win the guy over by being basic like everyone else. With a playful smile, she shows her friend a picture of an aquarium on her phone. Rika describes the aquarium with sparkling waves and fish dancing in coral reefs. With the perfect lighting, the romantic vibe would be ideal for deep conversations. The blonde pushes her friend to trust her and our hero cannot believe this. With everything settled, the day finally comes to an end and the sun sets over the city. Rika says goodbye to Karen and wishes her good luck on her date the next day. The red-haired girl says thanks and waves goodbye to the two friends who helped her so much. Left alone, our hero and Rika walk together as they part ways with their friend. The young woman then asks him about tomorrow, and he says he is going to read comics at home. With that, she gets the bright idea to follow Karen on her date, leaving him shocked. She says they have a responsibility to make sure their friend is happy, and he caves. The girl celebrates their partnership, and thus the spy duo of Rika and Yu Sung is formed. The next day, the sun rises, and the big day of the date finally arrives for everyone. In a corner of the city, two girls look surprised as they glance to the side. One of them is Sakamoto's childhood friend, who seems pretty shocked by something. Nearby, Karen's dad arrives looking intimidating and scares a kid. With his henchman, he gears up for his beloved daughter's very first date. At the meeting spot, Karen waits anxiously holding a purple gift. Sakamoto then arrives waving and calls the girl by her last name, Tojo. With a kind smile, he apologizes for being late and asks if she waited long. Blushing, the young lady says she just got there and that it is no problem. An awkward silence falls over the two, and Sakamoto is left not knowing what to say. He then compliments her casual outfit, and the young woman is surprised by the comment. Thanking him awkwardly, the two start walking together on their highly anticipated date. She suggests grabbing tea to plan out their day, and he agrees immediately. The guy then offers to carry the gift while someone watches them from a distance. In disguise, our hero and Rika spy on the couple from a well-hidden alley. The protagonist rushes to follow them, and Rika runs after him so she does not fall behind. The couple then walks toward a famous cafe, and they seem pretty excited. From afar, Karen's dad watches everything with a look of pure hatred and disgust. He explodes with rage that the guy made his daughter wait for 5 whole minutes. One of the henchmen warns that civilians are giving them suspicious looks, and the boss is shocked. The assistant explains that 9 people together draw too much attention and suggests splitting into pairs. With that, the boss agrees to the idea and orders everyone to move in pairs from now on. Meanwhile, at the cafe, the vibe between the couple is very romantic and chill. A huge and delicious strawberry parfait is served at the table for dessert. Rika gets super hyped about her order, but our hero doubts she can finish it. The young woman then teases him, asking if he cannot even finish a single parfait, but our hero notices the place feels a bit off and observes the other customers. He mentions the cafe is full of middle-aged men looking very suspicious. The guy then gets a bad feeling and thinks they are tied to Tojo somehow. His focus turns to one specific man, Karen's overprotective dad. He thinks the guy's wig looks really weird, but notices he resembles Tojo. Just then, he hears Karen and Sakamoto talking about the dolphins at the city aquarium. The couple agrees to check out the dolphins first as soon as they reach their destination. With a glowing smile, the young woman says today is going to be so much fun for them. Our hero gets tense and thinks that with so many spies, this date is going to be tough. After dessert, they head to the Shibuya station to catch the next train. Inside the packed train car, Karen ends up falling asleep on Sakamoto's shoulder from pure exhaustion. Our hero shields Rika from the crowd as the train doors slowly close. The young lady gets startled by the pushing, and people complain about the lack of space. She thinks she is way too close to Ryu and did not expect the train to be this packed. The guy then turns to the girl and notices how uncomfortable she is. He asks her to hold on just a little longer, and the young woman awkwardly agrees. The doors open, and with the rush of the crowd, Rika is almost swept away in the chaos. Worried about the couple, he tells her to grab his hand so they don't get lost. With a pull, he guides her through the crowd so they can exit the train safely. After all the chaos, they finally arrive at the Ikebukuro station. The two are exhausted but made it out and are still holding hands. Rika then points to their hands, and the guy apologizes awkwardly. With his hand free, he gets ready to step back, but she asks for something unexpected. With a smile, she asks him to hold her hand a little more gently next time. Our hero gets totally flustered and wonders what she meant by that. Suddenly, the light turns red and they lose sight of the couple across the street. He calms her down and says since their destination is the aquarium, they can just head straight there. Upon arriving, they find a massive crowd, and the henchmen start complaining. They did not expect so many people on a weekend morning and feel totally lost. The guy recognizes the gang members and knows he needs to be careful not to be seen, so he hides with Rika to avoid being spotted by the underground syndicate guys. From a distance, Karen's dad spots him and finds him a bit suspicious with the hood up. The assistant recognizes him as Kim Yu, Sun, the young lady's friend, and the girl next to him. In a flashback, he remembers the two helping Karen get ready for the date. With that, the boss understands they are there to help and not to get in the way. He then decides to follow his daughter's friends so he won't ruin the date. The boss then leads his men and closely shadows our hero and Rika. Meanwhile, at the aquarium, the couple seems amazed by the beauty of the place. Sakamoto invites her in, and Karen is super excited to see the fish. Nearby, two troublemakers recognize the protagonist of the original story. With a smile, he asks his friend who that guy walking around is. He recognizes him as the jerk who kicked them out of the kendo club and gets angry. With a hateful look, he says this time he will not let him get away with it. Inside the aquarium, our hero and Rika spy on the couple from afar very carefully. The dim lighting makes it hard to see, but the vibe between the two seems really good. The guy can tell their date is going much better than he imagined. Karen has a bright smile on her face and is having a great time with Sakamoto. He then wonders if they even need to keep spying on the two of them. After the aquarium, they head to Minami Ikebukuro Park for a picnic. Rika prepared a feast with kimbap and inari sushi that looks delicious. Our hero is shocked by the amount of food, but the young woman is hyped. She then says they can now eat and keep an eye on the couple at the same time. Sakamoto mentions the aquarium was fun and Karen agrees about the fish. Looking totally tense, the red-haired young woman offers the lunch she made herself. Rika gets worried about her friend, but the hero says she is nervous because it is her first time. The blonde remembers her friend practiced for 3 days and even asked for advice. With trembling hands, the young lady hands the lunchbox to the guy who looks at it. He is amazed by how the food looks and says it is simply incredible. The blonde guy then picks up one of the rice balls to try it out. With an attentive look, the red-haired girl waits anxiously for her classmate's reaction. He takes a bite and his expression shifts to one of surprise at the taste. With his mouth full, he gives a thumbs up and approves of his friend's food. Seeing this, the young woman fills with joy and her eyes sparkle at the compliment. Excitedly, she then offers a piece of chicken and the guy gets a bit bashful. He then opens his mouth to receive the food from the super happy young woman. With a smile, the girl watches the guy and a romantic vibe takes over. The young lady gets all hyped up and encourages him to eat even more of the food. Sakamoto praises the dish and Karen is happy like everything. From afar, our hero tells Rika to eat too and the young lady agrees. Meanwhile, Sakamoto offers a bit of his rice ball to Karen. He says he is fine for now but will try her food later. With her face completely red, the young lady realizes this is truly a date. Rika comments that the two seem to be getting along great and he agrees. The blonde thinks something is off because the date is going a little too perfectly. With a dreamy look, she says she would also love to go on a date like that. Our hero then teases her and asks about her being a love guru. The blonde then reveals she has never dated and learned everything from manga. As the picnic wraps up, the couple starts packing their things to leave. Our hero says he will keep following them, but she insists she has done enough for her friends. The guy ignores her excuse and the young woman gets annoyed at the whole situation. With a smile, he just watches the couple who seem to have a great vibe going. From a distance, the spy duo thinks it might be time for the big confession, but suddenly our hero notices something weird and his eyes go wide. Karen's gift is on the ground and Sakamoto seems to be dealing with some kind of problem. The two troublemakers from the kendo club show up and confront the couple in the park. With an evil grin, they say they finally found him and call him a punk. The blonde guy is shocked by their presence and Karen does not understand a thing. From afar, our hero and Rika watch the scene unfold and are also pretty surprised. The bullies accuse him of being a player and swapping girls all the time. Rika suggests calling the cops, but he says he will step in if things get ugly. The attackers then step closer and Sakamoto gets ready for a fight. Our hero then remembers there were the freshmen kicked out of the kendo club. In a flashback, the original protagonist's friend tells what happened. The two were kicked out and Sakamoto defeated them even while outnumbered. Furious, they complain about the pain of not being able to see the captain anymore, and the girl gets mad. She calls them fools and points out they do not even get why they were expelled. The two recognize her and mock her for being all dressed up and looking different. With a mocking smile, one of them asks if she is going out with that loser. They taunt her, saying she does not suit him and should just stay home. Sakamoto then yells at them to shut up and steps up to protect his friend, but the troublemakers reveal they did not come alone and brought some heavy backup. One of them calls out to his older brother and Sakamoto gets tense about the situation. A blonde, muscular guy then shows up and introduces himself as the older brother. They introduce him as Hayashi, a legend from Kitayama who is supposedly still active. Sakamoto then tells Karen to run away, but she refuses to leave him alone. The punk gets annoyed by the scene and tells them to stop playing hero. With a quick move, he grabs Karen's wrist and pulls her close to him. He invites her to have some fun and tells her to forget about that loser right there. Sakamoto screams for him to let her go and the attacker says he is in the way. With a powerful punch, he sends the guy flying and gets ready to attack. Our hero then stands up and tells Rika to stay put and wait for him. The punk holds onto Karen and the young woman screams for Sakamoto desperately. The punk says it is no big deal and that he is taking his girlfriend away. He steps closer to the young lady, but a dark purple presence emerges behind him. Our hero then appears and glares at him with a serious, angry look. With a tight grip, he forces him to let go of the girl, and the bully screams in pain. The guy then tosses him away with a single blow, leaving the others in shock. With a cold look, he warns that he will not repeat himself and tells him to take his hands off his friend. The attacker gets up confused and calls him boss, not understanding where he came from. He gets angry and challenges him to a fair fight with no sneak attacks. Our hero unleashes his intimidating aura and the bully wonders about his training. He convinces himself it was just a sneak attack and that the guy is just a strong civilian. From afar, Karen's dad watches everything and wonders if he should let the situation play out. He remembers losing sight of the couple and getting a bit desperate. Just before they were eating lunch in the park and suddenly vanished. The assistant then spots them and points to where the two are in the middle of the park. The underground boss then sees his daughter being grabbed and gets ready to strike. He is furious at the punk who dared to lay a hand on his beloved daughter Karen. One of his henchmen asks if he should get the tools and he tells him to wait. The boss says they do not need to butt into a kid's fight and just watches. From behind, our hero releases a dark purple aura that scares the troublemakers. Karen's dad feels a suffocating pressure and the mood gets heavy and tense. He remembers feeling that exact same sensation before in a standoff. The aura reminds him of Ivan the Destroyer, the Russian mob boss he faced. During a meeting in Japan, he felt the same overwhelming pressure and fear as before. To him, that was the aura of a crushing monster that strikes pure fear into everyone. He cannot believe that this same aura is coming from a simple student. Our hero decides he is no longer following the plot and will just protect his friends. With that choice made, he gets ready to take out the trash standing in front of him. He then asks Tojo to take Sakamoto away and leave the rest to him. The young lady tries to argue, but he cuts her off and says he does not lose to guys like that. The punk gets annoyed at being ignored and gets ready to go all out. The punk charges in with a punch, but our hero stands completely still and calm. He then throws a flurry of punches but fails to land a single hit. The troublemakers cheer and say his fists are way too fast to dodge. The attacker then brags that he cannot even dodge his strikes, but suddenly he notices that his punches are not having any effect at all. Our hero then stares at him with a cold look, and the bully is spooked by the scene. The attacker then goes in for a second round, but this time with more power. He lands a direct hit on his face, but the guy does not even flinch from the impact. Rika screams in panic, and Karen also calls his name desperately. With his face all bruised, the guy just glares at his opponent with disgust. With a cold look and a little trickle running down his face, he stares at the punk, saying nothing. The attacker is terrified by the scene and cannot believe what he is seeing. Our hero then says that from now on everything will be considered self-defense. The bully is confused and does not understand what he meant by that sentence. With a single punch, he hits him in the face and sends him flying with ease. Legitimate self-defense is defined as a single strike to stop a threat. With the impact, the punk hits the ground totally defeated and knocked out cold. The guy says that anything more would be excessive force, and the others try to wake him up. With his face all messed up, the two are shocked by our hero's strength. He then glares at them and says they laid a hand on his friends and are gonna pay. One of them threatens him, saying his dad is a big shot in the police with lots of connections. The guy says he is going to fix their rotten brains and grabs the attacker's head. He then uses his iron claw technique and the two scream in pain and beg. With a single toss, he throws them away and the two hit the ground defeated. Afraid, the two beg for their lives and ask him to spare them from a beating. He then tells them to get lost and never show up in front of his friends again. The two agree and run away, desperately trying to escape as fast as possible. Rika runs over to him and the guy says everything is fine and it was just a scratch. She then explodes in anger and tells him to go to the pharmacy to treat his cuts. The young man is surprised and thinks it is the first time he has seen her this mad. After the mess, our hero and Rika go back to watching the couple from afar. The mood between the two seems a bit heavy and silence takes over the bench. The spy duo then decides to give them some space to talk privately. Blushing, Karen apologizes that he got hurt because of her. The guy says it was not her fault and that the attackers were after him. With the tension in the air, the young lady works up the courage to talk to him. With a gentle smile and a flushed face, she gets ready to confess her feelings. Gathering all her courage, the girl says she likes him and the guy is shocked. Sakamoto is speechless and the young woman continues pouring out her heart. From afar, our hero and Rika are stunned by the scene they just witnessed. With eyes full of hope, the girl then asks him to go out with her. She begs with all her might for him to accept her request to date. The guy stays quiet for a moment and his expression shifts suddenly. With a serious face, he just looks at her and the mood gets even heavier. He then apologizes and says he cannot give her the answer she wants. The young lady tries to argue, but he says she is way too good for someone like him. She is confused and the guy reveals he promised to marry another girl. He then says that at least until he finds her again, he cannot accept her feelings. With that, the guy explains he does not plan on dating anyone right now. With tears welling up in her eyes, the young woman is crushed by his answer. He says he remembers liking her a lot and that he cried when she moved away. Karen then realizes that the other girl was his first true love. With that, she stands up and says she is going to give up on him and will not push it anymore. Forcing a smile, she says she had a good time and will see him at school on Monday. Sakamoto says goodbye and watches her walk away with a broken heart. The young woman then runs off so he will not see her crying over the rejection. Our hero is left speechless and tells Rika to go home first. She asks if he is going alone, and the guy says they will see each other at school. The young lady watches him walk away and gets a bit worried about the situation. Looking sad, she thinks he seems down and might need some help. The guy follows Karen and finds her at a bus stop near the park. The young lady is sitting alone, looking down, completely devastated. He quietly walks up to her and the girl notices his presence. With a concerned look, he asks if she is okay with everything that went down. With tears streaming from her eyes, the young woman starts crying non-stop. He offers her a tissue and says of course she is not okay. The guy tries to calm her down and tells her to take a deep breath and not panic. Embarrassed, she says she has never cried in front of anyone, and he comforts her. The girl thinks about the word friends and reflects a bit on her situation. She then reveals she knew the two of them were following them, and the guy is shocked. He feels awkward and wonders how people get caught in romantic comedies. The young lady says her trainers were worried, and he tries to explain himself. Looking sad, she apologizes for failing and not winning the guy over. The young woman thinks there was never any room for her in his heart to begin with. Hand over her heart, she says it hurts so much and there is nothing she can do. Our hero quietly watches his friend's pain and does not know what to say. Sweating and trembling, she gets ready to say something very important. Through her tears, she finally admits that she loves Sakamoto very much. He thinks it is weird because before he saw her as a character, but now she is real. The guy also thinks about Rika and how he always kept his distance from her. In his heart he drew a clear line between himself and the manga characters, but he wonders if he can really call someone who feels such vivid pain just a character. He then stands up and tells Tojo to get up too so they can leave. The young man says if she stays there someone will call the cops for a disturbance. The girl stays quiet for a second and watches him with a curious look. With a tear in the corner of her eye, she seems to have understood what he meant. She gives a wink and he says a smile looks way better on her. The guy then takes off his jacket and the young woman is confused by his action. He hands her the jacket and asks where they are heading next. With a smile he invites her to go to karaoke and the young lady is surprised. He says she is going to scream to let all the bad luck out at karaoke. With that he pulls her along and the young lady tries to resist, but the guy ignores her completely. She then mumbles that he is always so random with his decisions. Our hero thinks she and Rika are just like him, people who actually feel things. With a smile he watches her and realizes just how genuine her emotions are. The girl smiles back and with her eyes closed she seems much happier. From afar one of the henchmen wipes his sweat and looks relieved about the situation. The others are also happy she has a friend like Kim Yu-sung. He says that in a harsh world like theirs kids like him are pretty rare. Karen's dad smiles and says maybe that kid really is special. He then hopes their paths will cross again someday in the future. At karaoke, Karen yells at him to sing louder and put more energy into it. She then says it is his turn and the guy gets tense about the whole thing. In her room, Rika is hanging out and seems super hyped about a phone call. Her eyes shining, she screams in excitement and celebrates the news she just got. She then heads over to our hero's house and is shocked to see the workout weights. The young lady asks if all guys have workout gear in their bedrooms. She then walks up to one of the dumbbells to try and lift it off the floor. Even with a ton of effort, she cannot even move it and complains about how heavy it is. The guy explains it is heavy and she is shocked to find out it is half her body weight. In a flashback, he remembers starting to walk with her after school. One day her stomach growls and the guy is a little surprised by the noise. He asks if she is hungry and the girl gets totally embarrassed about it. The young woman then remembers his family owns a restaurant and gets excited. He agrees to take her and figures a single meal would not be a big deal. The two head to the restaurant and she is amazed by the food. The young lady starts eating and drinks a soda to wash down the meal. She eats eagerly and our hero just watches her in silence. With her mouth full, she lets out a burp with satisfaction and seems really happy. The young woman then compliments his mom's cooking and the woman is thrilled by the praise. His mom is happy with the compliment and tells her to eat as much as she wants. The guy notices his mom really liked Rika and that she really knows how to appreciate a good meal. Suddenly, the young woman pulls him along and says they need to head to their next stop. He chokes on his drink and asks where they are going in such a rush. With a mischievous smile, she says they are going to his room to read manga. He feels awkward and thinks he was stupid to assume nothing weird would happen. Carrying a tray of drinks, he walks up to his room where the young lady is waiting. The girl picks up one of the mangas and is surprised by his taste in reading. He gets embarrassed and says it is nothing special while the young lady teases him. The guy says he is joking and knows she is into shonen manga. He then points to a series called Golden Samurai and the young lady gets hyped. He says it is his favorite series and the girl reveals she also loves the work. The young man hands her the first issue and Rika is shocked by how rare it is. He says the art is beautiful and the ending leaves a strong impression on him. Her eyes sparkling, she agrees and praises the psychology of the characters. The guy is happy and says he has never met someone who loved the series so much. The young woman then reveals her dad is going to be very happy with his praise. With a smile, she mentions her dad is a mangaka, the creator of the series. He is completely stunned to find out she is the daughter of Kishimoto Musashi. The guy starts connecting the dots about her last name and her looks. He remembers hearing the author's wife was British and it all clicks. In his mind, he recalls his visit to her house and gets furious with himself. Eyes wide, he grabs her and asks if he can get an autograph. With tears in his eyes, he celebrates the chance and feels like a victorious fan. The young woman then asks why Golden Samurai is his favorite among so many series. The girl asks the reason for his choice and he gets a bit embarrassed. He says there is no special reason but the work just grew on him. With a smile, the young lady says there is something in Volume 5 that really intrigues her. She points out that the protagonist always puts his friends first. With a cold look, he remembers the scene and says not to dare touch his friends. The young woman remembers he is strong and gentle at the same time. With a smile, she says he reminds her of the protagonist from the series she loves so much. The next day at school, the sun is shining and a new week of classes begins. Our hero is in the student council room for an important meeting. The student council president stares at him seriously and reminds him of his promise. She then reveals she needs help getting rid of a creepy teacher. The young woman explains the school has an exchange program with a Russian school. Because of that, she wants to give a memorable gift to the new student who is arriving. With a smile, she asks if he can help her pick the perfect present. The guy agrees to help and the young woman suggests the first day of the holiday. Excitedly, she says if he breaks his promise, she will absolutely not forgive him. With his help secured, she dismisses him and starts looking for a place to sit. He decides to ask Rika to change their hangout to the 30th. Back in his classroom, he gets ready for another day of studying. A friend walks up and asks if he heard the news about the troublemakers. He reveals that the two guys who were kicked out of Kendo requested a transfer. With a smile, his friend says it is weird they both transferred at the exact same time. Our hero smiles and says they must have their reasons that they cannot share. He thinks at least they won't be bothering his couple friends anymore. Suddenly, the new English teacher arrives and complains about the students being late. She tells everyone to sit down and open their books to start the lesson. With a smile, she asks which of the two fruits on the board is cheaper. The guy reads the sentence and Rika nudges him to answer the question. The new teacher Mizuki Nene then picks him to answer the question. She calls on number 24 and his classmate next to him gets tense. But she adds that the person behind him should read the sentence from the book. Our hero then stands up to answer the English teacher's question. He introduces himself as James from England and says he wants to learn about Japanese culture. The other students are blown away by his perfect pronunciation and praise him. The teacher then asks what a good answer to his question would be. He recommends Osaka as a great spot because it is full of foreigners and has lots of tourist resources. Teacher Mizuki makes a weird face and the guy wonders what the deal is with her reaction. She praises him saying it was a perfect answer and our hero is left confused by the whole thing. In his head he thinks she clearly looked like she hated the answer he gave. The teacher keeps praising him saying he has been doing great in class. With a serious look the guy watches the teacher trying to figure out her attitude. The teacher starts stuttering and tries to explain what she meant by her question. With it the protagonist realizes he was right and she really did get uncomfortable. The guy concludes that for some reason Mizuki-sensei seems scared of him. In the hallways students are spreading rumors that he is the heir to a syndicate family. He thinks this is the first time he has seen someone so terrified of his presence. Because of that he decides to act as normal as possible so no one gets the wrong idea. Meanwhile in the staff room Mizuki is typing away on her computer super fast. With a nervous smile the teacher seems to be breaking a sweat and really worried about something. She checks his file and is shocked to see he is a model student thinking it cannot be real. The teacher then cooks up a theory that he is pretending to be a perfect student just to take her out. With this crazy idea in her head the teacher is completely terrified in the room. Our hero walks in and with a forced smile he greets her and introduces himself. She gets spooked and tells him to come in but insists she is not nervous which he finds weird. In his mind he concludes she is blatantly terrified of being around him. The guy says he is there for the career counseling she brought up. The teacher calms down and with a gentle smile she tries to hide her nerves. She invites him to sit and asks if he has thought about what he wants to do in the future. The teacher suggests he take over the family business, and the guy is confused by the question. In her mind she pictures him as a mobster, and is terrified of what might happen. She asks what his parents do, and the young man says they own a restaurant. The teacher is surprised and repeats the info, and he asks if there is a problem. She denies it and says she would love to visit someday, and the guy thinks the misunderstanding is cleared up. The teacher asks which subjects he is most confident in, and he answers math and science. She suggests a career in STEM, but he says it is foolish to choose something just because you are good at it. Teacher Mizuki is surprised by his answer and watches him with curiosity. The protagonist then says he wants to do what he really wants to do, not just what is easiest. She agrees with him and he remembers his trauma with engineering in his past life. The teacher reveals she didn't always want to be a teacher, and the guy asks what her dream was. She gets embarrassed and asks him to promise not to laugh, and the young man agrees. The teacher then reveals her big dream was to become a professional voice actress. In high school, she fell in love with a character from a mecha anime and made her choice, but her teacher said hobbies are things she can chase later in life. The master advised her to get a stable job first and think about it later. She followed the advice but regretted it as soon as she got into college and realized it. Seeing a poster for an event, the young woman realized this was not her true dream. The teacher regrets having based her future on someone else's advice. With that, she advises him to think carefully before making any major decisions. Our hero understands the advice is not coming from a teacher but from someone older. With a gentle smile, the teacher asks if he understood what she meant. The protagonist thanks her for the advice and the lesson he learned from her. Later, another teacher asks if he is the famous Kim Yu-sung, the syndicate heir. The master mentions he has heard all sorts of rumors from underground, prince to gangster, but Mizuki defends him saying all the rumors are just a huge misunderstanding. With a smile, she says Kim Yu-sung is actually a very thoughtful student. The teacher reflects on it and says from now on he won't judge students by their looks. Mizuki flashes a kind smile and seems pretty relieved about the whole thing. Time passes and during Golden Week our hero is standing in front of a temple in Tokyo. Holding his phone, he thinks he arrived a bit too early for the meeting. Suddenly he spots someone familiar and calls out to the student council president. The young woman turns around with a furious look and seems really mad about something. Angrily she yells that he is late and the guy is confused by the accusation. She grabs him by the arm and asks if he even knows what time it is right now. The president glares at him and points her finger with a look of pure annoyance. He says there are still 10 minutes left, but she scolds him for lacking etiquette with ladies. The president leans on him and says she forgives him, but in return he has to do something. She points to a shop and demands the guy buy her some matcha ice cream. The protagonist is confused and asks why he has to pay, and the young lady makes a playful face. Left with no choice, he buys the ice cream for the girl and figures it is no big deal. They eat the ice cream together and the young lady loves the flavor, which makes him happy. He then asks where they are going to buy the gift, and the young lady gets annoyed by the question. The president says she did not forget and tells him to follow her, but he can tell she totally forgot. A voice in the girl's ear tells her there is a craft shop 2 blocks away. The voice suggests she come there so they can pick out the gift together. Her helpers also advise her to act naturally and use her feminine charm. They are the butler and the maid of the Sanji family on a secret mission for the date. With their help, they arrive at a store and find a giant golden Buddha statue. The young lady suggests the statue as a gift, and the store owner praises her taste in art. She brags about her aesthetic sense, and he shows another item that costs 4 million. Our hero is shocked by the price, and the girl is also startled by the amount. With that, the president says she felt a chill, and the owner does not understand anything. She asks Manami and her Erpies to speak softer and not to yell. The maid scolds her since she is on a date and tells her to look back. Our hero is bored looking at his phone, and the assistant reminds her of the rule. Rule number 1 of a date is not letting your partner get bored, and she panics. The president then remembers something, and the guy is confused by her behavior. Making an excuse, she drags him out of the store, leaving the owner totally confused. Outside, the protagonist asks if the girl is feeling okay. He places his hand on her forehead, and the young lady is a bit surprised by the gesture. Embarrassed, she says she is fine and invites him to go to the next place. Her helpers then give the next instruction to head to a clothing store. They arrive at a traditional shop with a wooden sign at the entrance. The saleswoman shows off a kimono and says the exchange student will love it. The guy asks the president what she thinks of the gift for the student, but she says the price does not matter and orders the clerk to show the best piece in the shop. The saleswoman gets hyped and with fire in her eyes gets ready to show off the item. She then presents a stunning kimono and says it costs 500,000 yen. The president rejects them all, and the guy thinks she does not like absolutely anything. Time flies and they stay in the shop unable to decide which gift to take. Finally, the hero says they are torn between the yukata and the kimono and both are beautiful. The saleswoman suggests the young lady try on the clothes so she can decide better. The lady asks the guy for his opinion, saying it would help the girl choose. With that, the clerk takes her to the fitting room so she can try on the outfits, but suddenly the saleswoman takes off a mask and reveals her true identity. To the young lady's surprise, the clerk was actually her maid Manami the whole time. The maid reveals she is a ninja working for the family, and the owner lent them the shop. The young lady questions the plan, and the ninja says is so she can show off her charm. The maid says she will make her look gorgeous, but the young lady is not ready for this. Outside, the protagonist waits playing a game on his phone to pass the time. He focuses on the game and pulls off a huge win with a 9-hit combo. When the match is over, he puts his phone away and keeps waiting for the president. Suddenly, the door opens and an elegant figure with a flower in her hair appears. The guy looks up and is totally shocked and flustered by the scene. The president steps out wearing a beautiful black kimono and asks how she looks. The protagonist is speechless and just stares at her with his face completely red. Embarrassed, he turns his face away, unable to even look at the girl. The young lady stares at him with a serious look, waiting for his answer. Seeing his silence, the girl feels a little sad and disappointed by his reaction. The guy finally gathers his courage and gets ready to give his honest opinion. Blushing, he tells her she looks stunning, and the young woman is shocked. The guy adds that the outfit really matched her style perfectly. He looks at her for another moment, and the mood gets a bit tense between them. Hearing the compliment, she brags, saying that is what happens when she actually tries. Excited, she says she's also going to try on the yukata and tells him to wait a bit longer. With that, the president heads back to the fitting room to change outfits again. Because of the compliment, the president gets super awkward with her face all red. Hands covering her face, she gets extremely embarrassed and cannot look at the guy. Her heart racing, the young woman wonders what she should do in this situation. The two then step out of the store, and people on the street stare at them with admiration. In her purple dress, the young lady walks next to our hero, catching everyone's attention. The president reflects that she stands out too much, and they took the same train to get there. After shopping, they head to lunch, and she says she is going to call a car. The guy offers to walk, but the young lady says they attract way too much attention. Suddenly, he spots something weird and asks the girl what just happened. Her helpers were taking a selfie, and the guy thought they were taking pictures of them. The two walk away to avoid raising suspicion and keep going on their way. The maid is relieved, but the butler panics because they almost got caught. Scared, he says they were almost discovered, and she tells him not to get so close. He complains he cannot take bad photos, and she reminds him that he hates the guy. The ninja tells him not to let the young lady notice his feelings for the protagonist. After walking, they arrive at a restaurant with lanterns out front. The guy says this is his favorite ramen spot, and the young woman looks at him. He invites her in and tells her to pick whatever she wants from the menu. Suddenly, the butler gets a terrible stomachache and needs to go to the bathroom. The maid asks what is wrong, and he complains about the pain in his stomach. He blames it on the ice cream he ate, and she scolds him for eating so much. The butler then rushes to the bathroom, and the ninja gets annoyed by the scene. He runs desperately and heads into the men's restroom to relieve himself. With a sigh of relief, he thinks he cannot believe that just happened to him. But walking out of the bathroom, he runs right into our hero and is stunned. Afraid, the butler recognizes him, and the protagonist remembers him too. The restaurant door opens, and the guy walks in with the young lady's two helpers. The president is surprised they are there and does not understand what is going on. The guy says he ran into them by chance and invited them to eat as a thank you. The young woman turns around and looks at the two with a shocked and confused expression. The president feels awkward and thinks this was not the original plan for the date. The group sits down at the table to eat lunch and the vibe gets a bit weird. The maid apologizes and says her idiot brother bumped into the guy by accident. With the ramen on the table, steam rises and the dish looks incredibly delicious. The young president is amazed by the steaming ramen right in front of her. He asks if it is her first time eating it and the girl says she has only seen it on TV. The guy concludes she is a spoiled rich girl, but the maid says she eats it at home. Chopsticks in hand, the president brings the spoon to her mouth to taste it. The protagonist asks eagerly what she thinks and if the flavor is to her liking. Hand over her mouth, she says it is delicious and her eyes sparkle with the taste. Because of this, the guy is happy she liked it and the ninja also celebrates. The butler offers to finish the rest, but the maid scolds him about his stomach ache. After lunch, they head to an arcade filled with lights and all kinds of games. The president tries to grab a plushie from the claw machine but fails and gets frustrated. The protagonist offers to win the plushie for her on the claw machine. Meanwhile, the two guys play a fighting game and are having a blast. The vice president celebrates his win and teases our hero for losing the game. Annoyed, the guy says the vice crossed the line and that he is going to crush him. With an evil glare, the vice president says he will make him pay for the young lady's love. Our hero gets mad, says they still have credits, and challenges him to another round. In the game, the protagonist's character gets hit by a sudden powerful kick. The fire girl then lands a heavy punch and wins the fight with a combo. With the knockout, the vice president's character takes the match once again. The guy cannot believe he lost and the butler mocks him about his gaming skills. With hatred in his eyes, the vice president gets ready for the next and final challenge. He calls out the protagonist's name and the guy is a bit surprised. The butler says they are going to settle this right now and points to a machine. The guy with glasses challenges him to a contest on the arcade's punching machine. The butler then rips off his shirt and gets ready to show his true strength. To everyone's shock, the butler tears his shirt off, revealing a super muscular body. The butler flexes his physique and the protagonist wonders how he even hides all that. The maid and the president get embarrassed by the butler's the top acting. He says the guy agreed to the match, but our hero completely denies it. With an evil smirk, the butler shows off a badge and asks if he was looking forward to this. The guy gets tense and the butler says he is disappointed by his cowardly attitude. He then shows off for the crowd and says he didn't peg him as a quitter. With a smile, he tells the guy to watch closely and gets ready for the challenge. The butler stretches out and steps up to the machine, ready to begin. With a battle cry, he gears up to throw the hardest punch of his life. With a swift motion, he hits the machine with a powerful and accurate punch. The score goes up to 960 and the girls celebrate the new record. With that, he calls out the protagonist and says now it is his turn to show his strength. The president cheers him on and promises to cover the cost if the machine breaks from his punch. The guy cries and tells her to stop, but the young lady insists she believes in him. Left with no choice, he accepts and wonders how things even got to this point. He thinks the score does not matter and that the real issue is something else entirely. With his muscle character buff, he fears his power might just be too much. In his mind, he pictures himself completely shattering the machine with a single punch. With that thought, he decides he is going all out and prepares for the big strike. He focuses his energy and hits the machine with a super powerful punch. A purple light bursts from the sheer force and everyone is stunned by what they saw. The butler is left speechless and cannot believe the strength the guy just showed. He then yells asking where the protagonist hit it, and the ninja is totally shocked. The scoreboard then shows a 0 and the president says it didn't count as score. The ninja scolds him for his aim and the guy feels embarrassed about the whole thing. The hero thinks at least it wasn't a high score and that is a good thing. Suddenly the top part of the machine breaks loose and he does not understand why. With a loud crash, the upper half of the punching machine falls to the ground and shatters. With the machine destroyed, everyone goes silent and watches the scene in shock. The butler just stands there with his arms crossed and the vibe gets really tense in the arcade. The butler then calls the match a tie and the guy is relieved by the call. Hand over his face, he tries to hide his embarrassment and says it was a fair decision. He then warns that next time he will win by a mile and the hero agrees. After the mess, our hero suggests they take some photos as a souvenir. He points to a photo booth and invites the group to take some sticker pictures. The president thinks it is a fun idea and the ninja gets hyped for the photo op. The guy then calls everyone into the booth for their group photo session. They snap a bunch of pictures together, striking funny poses with a red fan. In another pic, the ninja gets choked by her brother while the couple smiles for the camera. In another one, they wear bunny and mouse ears, pulling cute and silly faces. And to wrap it up, they wear weirdly shaped sunglasses and make a heart shape. With the photos in hand, the group gathers to look at the results of their fun session. The president says the pictures turned out great, but the butler complains that his eyes are closed. With the photos in hand, the group gathers to look at the results of their fun session. The young woman smiles and says that despite the hiccups, the day was really fun. Our hero then suggests they end the day with a little bit of karaoke. With it, the group heads to a karaoke spot to sing and have a bit more fun. The butler sings with a lot of hype, and the rest of the group claps along. Then the president grabs the mic and sings a beautiful song with her sweet voice. Eyes closed, she sings with so much emotion and looks really happy in the moment. The guy and the others clap for her and give her a thumbs up. After that, the two sing together and a friendly vibe takes over the room. The young lady smiles and sings joyfully right next to her special new friend. The guy also sings with a smile and has a blast with this new experience. As the day ends, he says goodbye and asks the young lady to get home safe. She thanks him for the day and says she had a lot of fun with him and the others. Inside the car, the two helpers are shocked and think they might have overdone it a bit. The maid apologizes to the young lady for getting way too carried away with the mission. They forgot to leave and ended up ruining the mood of the date. The president then stares at them with a serious look and silence fills the air. With a smile, she says it is all good and that she had more than enough fun. The helpers are relieved by her answer and look at the young woman with admiration. She remembers waiting for someone for the very first time and sharing ice cream. The young lady also remembers laughing and chatting while shopping with the guy. Holding the photo, she says everything made her happy, but one thing really stood out. The president recalls the fun she had with her two childhood friends. With that, she thanks them for always being by her side and makes them tear up. Hands together, she thanks them once again and the two are deeply moved. The maid cries and says this day will be a precious memory for her. The two then swear they will serve her forever and get emotional over the moment. With a smile, the young lady says next time they're going to help her succeed. The helpers agree and celebrate the young lady's promise for the next date. Meanwhile, in a dark room, a man is drawing on a digital tablet. Pen in hand, he works on his manga with a ton of dedication and hard work. The man with his hair tied back looks super focused and does not notice anyone there. Suddenly, a blonde girl appears at the door and calls him dad with a smile. She asks if he forgot that her friend is coming over to visit tomorrow. The dad says he is really looking forward to meeting the friend she talks so much about. With a smile, he reveals he wants to meet the guy named Kim Yu-sung. On the second day of Golden Week, our hero goes to Rika's house just as they planned. With his heart pounding, he gets ready to finally meet his massive idol. He bows and says it is an honor to meet him, and the author praises him. The guy is tense and thinks that this is the one and only manga god Musashi. With the author's image in his mind, he views him as a true god of manga. The author invites him inside and says his wife got really excited about the visit. Rika's mom then shows up and invites him to eat before the food gets cold. An incredible feast is served on the table with a bunch of different delicious dishes. After lunch, they sit around the table to chat and give thanks for the meal. The author reveals that Rika talks about him non-stop and the guy feels embarrassed. With a mischievous look, the dad says he wanted to meet him since it is his daughter's first time. With the mood getting tense, he tries to explain, saying he and Rika are just friends. He mentions they met because the young lady was lost and Rika scolds him. The guy points out he is her first guy friend and worried about her dad's opinion. He reflects and puts himself in the author's shoes as a dad protecting his daughter. In his head, he imagines seeing all guys as hungry wolves ready to strike. The girl scolds him for saying weird stuff and gets all awkward about the situation. She asks why he is staring at her so much and the guy feels totally out of place. The young woman's mom senses the tension and steps into cool things down at the dinner table. Rika's parents mention she has grown up and their little girl is finally leaving the nest. With a smile, the dad says he thought she would stay a kid forever. He remembers when she was little holding a cute stuffed bunny. In a flashback, little Rika says, when she grows up, she is going to marry her daddy. The author gets emotional at the memory and his eyes fill with tears. His wife watches him with a smile and the vibe at the table gets lighter. After dinner, the author invites him to check out his manga studio. The protagonist is super pumped and says he would love to see the workspace. The guy thanks him for the opportunity and gets ready for the big moment. He is incredibly happy about the chance to see the studio and score an autograph from the author. Rika's mom teases him and the guy says he is the artist he respects most in the world. Rika then takes him to her room and the guy is blown away by the decor. He praises the room and says it looks like a manga library with so many books. The young lady heads out to grab some tea and asks him to wait there alone for a bit. With a playful smile, she warns him not to touch anything and the guy agrees. Alone in the room, he thinks this is the first time he has ever been in a girl's room. To pass the time, he decides to play a little game on his phone to distract himself. Suddenly, the door opens and Rika's mom pops in with a smile on her face. He gets startled by her and the woman asks him to just call her Maria. The guy feels awkward and asks what brings her there, and she reveals her mission. With a smile, she pulls out a photo album and says she is going to show him her daughter's past. The mom shows pictures of little Rika, and the guy gets curious looking at them. She then finds a photo of Rika at Comiket and the guy is shocked by the news. The mom reveals she used to be a cosplayer and he figures the daughter inherited the gene. Smiling, she shows him the daughter's true dark past, and the guy is stunned. He sees Rika in a gothic outfit striking a super cringy pose in the picture. Suddenly, Rika shows up and yells at her mom for showing the pictures to her friend. The young woman asks desperately if her mom showed in the photos, and she smiles confirming it. Making a weird face, the guy thinks she is deep in the otaku zone and gets scared. The girl tries to explain, saying she isn't cosplay anymore and that it was a past mistake. The mom then says goodbye and leaves the room, leaving the two alone and embarrassed. With the tension heavy in the air, they both kneel on the floor not knowing what to say. She asks if he will keep it a secret and the guy says he has no one to tell anyway. With tears welling up in her eyes, the young woman is crushed and super embarrassed about the whole thing. He tries to calm her down, telling her not to feel so embarrassed about the pictures. The guy explains that everyone goes through middle school syndrome, and she questions him. With a smile, he reveals he was pretty bad in middle school too, and she is surprised. He asks if she wants to see a picture, and the young lady agrees, curious to see it. The protagonist finds the picture on his phone and shows it to the girl. Phone in hand, he gets ready to show his dark past to his friend. Rika is shocked when she sees the photo and cannot believe her eyes. He strikes the same pose as in the photo, and says he feels the black dragon awakening inside him. The girl comments he used to be a scrawny nerd and wonders how he got so strong. With a smile, the guy explains he started working out right before high school. He then asks if she does not like the way he looks now, and the young lady gets nervous. With her face completely red, she says she really likes him exactly the way he is now. After that confession, the girl feels totally awkward and covers her face with her hands. The guy is surprised by her reaction and calls her name without understanding anything. With their hearts racing, they stare at each other in silence, and the mood gets romantic. The two stand right in front of each other, not knowing what to say or do. Kneeling on the floor, they look at each other, and the romantic tension fills the room. Her mouth open, the young woman seems to want to say something, but the words won't come out. Blushing, he tries to hide his feelings and just watches her quietly. Embarrassed, she says she only sees him as a good friend, and the guy feels awkward. He repeats her words and thinks he is nothing more than just a good friend to her. They both agree they are just friends, and the vibe gets a little bit awkward. The guy scratches his head awkwardly, and they both sit in silence for a moment. He calls her name, and the young woman turns to him with a curious look. The protagonist thanks her for inviting him over and for letting him meet his idol. The girl says it was nothing and mentions he has been helping her since their first day of class. With a smile, he agrees, and the two keep chatting, feeling a bit more relaxed. He says he will visit her again, and the young woman agrees with a smile on her face. As the visit wraps up, the sun goes down, and Rika invites him to stay a bit longer. But he says it is getting late, and he needs to head home so he can eat dinner. The young lady remembers her family is going on a trip, and she will be home alone. He wishes her a safe trip, and the girl jokes that he is going to miss her. The guy offers to help if anything happens, and she questions him about it. With a smile, he imagines he could swim all the way to Hawaii with his strength, but he changes his mind and says he would just buy a plane ticket to go. The two say their goodbyes with a smile and agree to see each other at school soon. With a gentle smile, he says goodbye and watches her walk away slowly. The girl turns back with a blushing face and looks at him with loving eyes. Hand over her heart, she feels embarrassed and thinks about what just happened. Alone, he reflects on the day and remembers all the moments they spent together. He remembers when he found her lost and helped her find her way. The guy also recalls having lunch with her and how delicious the food was. He thinks about how hard she worked to help Tojo and how that makes her special. In his mind, he concludes that Rika is truly a very good and kind person. He also remembers protecting her on the crowded train to keep her safe. The guy asks her to hold on a little longer, and the young woman agrees, looking embarrassed. He holds her hand so they do not get lost and guides her through the crowd. Smiling, he reflects on all those moments and feels happy about their friendship. He waves goodbye with a smile and watches her with a caring look. The young woman smiles back and thinks about how special the day was for her. On the 5th day of Golden Week, our hero is taking a stroll in Akihabara. He walks down the busy city streets rocking his stylish black sneakers. Holding his phone, he thinks he has already bought all the manga he needed. With his shopping done, he decides it is time to find a place to eat. He thinks about hitting up his favorite ramen spot for lunch. Suddenly, a blue-haired girl runs past, yelling for him to get out of the way. He turns around, surprised and curious to see who is running. The young lady then trips and falls toward our hero with a clumsy jump. With a quick move, she leaps over the wall and flies right at him. The protagonist is startled by the scene and cannot believe what he is seeing. She lands right on him, and they both crash to the ground from the sudden impact. Face on the ground, he is confused and has no idea what just happened. With a bloody nose, he wonders why this kind of stuff always happens to him. Suddenly, he gets up annoyed and grabs the girl's arm tightly. He saves her and in return only gets a look of disgust as the girl tells him to let go. Suddenly, a group of men shows up and calls out for the young woman whose name is Sasha. She pulls him along and begs for his help to escape the men chasing her. The young lady drags him into a dead-end alley, and he warns her there is nowhere to go. With a smile, he guides her and tells her to come with him, and the young lady agrees. They duck into a ramen shop and hide from the men who are looking for them. Outside, the men search for the girl while the protagonist keeps an eye on them. Hiding under the table, the two wait for the men to leave so they can get out. Once the coast is clear, the young woman thanks him for the help, but he says it was an accident. With a smile, the girl introduces herself as Sasha and asks the guy for his name. He introduces himself, and the young lady asks if he is not Japanese and if he is a tourist. The protagonist gets annoyed and demands to know who those men were and what they wanted. He stands up to leave and tells her good luck with the running. The girl stops him and says it is complicated, but she needs his help to get away. The girl says common sense dictates helping pretty girls and asking questions later, but he disagrees. With that, she panics and offers the guy money, which leaves him shocked by the proposal. She pulls out a massive stack of cash to try and convince him. With that offer, he takes the deal and they shake hands to seal the agreement. The young woman adjusts her hat and decides she can no longer hide the truth from him. With her hair shining, she reveals her dad is someone very important in a place called Luxia. The protagonist is totally confused and does not understand a word she just said. The girl continues her explanation with a very serious look on her face. She then reveals that the men from earlier were actually trying to kidnap her. The guy recognizes her from the manga Scramble Love and realizes she is all one of the heroines. He remembers the character was named Al and was one of the most popular in the series. With that, he takes her to a clothing store so she can get a better disguise. The young lady steps out of the fitting room with a new look and asks what he thinks of the outfit. He says the clothes are good for moving around and she hires him as her bodyguard until 7. The guy says he can handle it and asks if there is a fun place to go nearby. With a smile, he says it will be easier to lose their brochures in crowded places. The guy adds that they won't be able to act freely with civilians around. He remembers her name is Alexandra Romanova, but everyone calls her Sasha. Our hero thinks she should have run into Ryuji, but somehow found him first. He wonders if this means he found her before her official debut. He does not know if he can step in, but wonders why a heroine is being hunted down. In his head, he wonders if she is trying to insult him and buy him off with cash. The guy wanted to say that, but the amount of money she offered was just too huge. Sighing, he thinks he just needs to endure it for 6 hours, and that it shouldn't be hard. With a playful look, the young lady brags that she is really good at reading people. In her mind, she remembers his tough look and how powerful he seemed. That is why she is absolutely sure he can handle 6 hours without breaking a sweat. She says it is time to move, so they are not tracked, but the guy tells her to stop. The men show up running, and our hero wonders how they found them so fast. As they run, he asks if they are ex-KGB agents, but she does not get the acronym. One of the pursuers stops right in front of him, and our hero gets ready for a fight. The man charges with a quick punch, but the guy manages to dodge the strike. With an agile move, he grabs him and gets ready to counterattack with full force. The attacker is shocked and cannot believe our hero's strength. With an evil smirk, he lifts the man high into the air with just one hand. He slams him into the ground, and the other henchmen are shocked by the scene. Sasha and the guy look back and realize the other men have backed off. He pushes her into an alley and tells her to hide for now. The protagonist closes the door and gets ready to take on the men all by himself. He figures these guys are on a totally different level than regular street punks. With it, the men surround him and get ready to attack all at once. But he thinks that unfortunately for them, he has a massive advantage. In Ronkums, the guy with the bigger build always wins, and he uses his power. With that, he takes down all the henchmen easily without breaking a sweat. He glares at them and tells everyone to back off since he can handle that level. Suddenly, he feels a weird presence and his eyes go wide with surprise. He is then hit by an unexpected powerful punch that catches him off guard. Feeling the impact, he groans in pain and wonders who just hit him. A bearded man in a black coat shows up and introduces himself as Captain Boris. The captain asks who the fool is and says he is stronger than he thought. The protagonist gets tense and realizes this guy is a very tough opponent. He wonders if his rom-com muscle buff is going to work here. From afar, Sasha watches everything completely shocked and speechless. She yells for him to be careful and says it does not matter how strong he looks. The young lady adds that there is no way he can beat Captain Boris in a fight. Our hero finally understands why she took the job so quickly. With a determined look, he gets ready for the final showdown with the captain. He decides he is going to end this as fast as possible and focuses. The captain is startled by his speed and tries to defend against the attack. The guy hits him with a powerful strike and a purple ore explodes from the force. With a quick move, he grabs the captain's face, who is shocked by his speed. Our hero realizes the opponent is tough and decides to switch up his strategy for the fight. He grips the captain's wrist tightly and readies his counterattack. With a quick spin, he uses his opponent's own force against him and throws him far away. But he feels a sharp pain and realizes the captain managed to strike back. The captain grabs him and uses a grappling hold, catching our hero off guard. He recognizes the move as one of the techniques he learned from his old master. With a confident smile, the captain thinks the fight is already over with that move. But suddenly he feels something off and notices the guy has not budged an inch. With incredible agility, our hero flips the situation and pins him from behind. The captain gets angry, realizing the guy is using a joint lock against him. With pressure on his hip, the captain screams in pain and cannot break free from the hold. The guy throws him into the air and the captain panics at his opponent's strength. With a loud crash, he hits the ground, completely defeated and unable to react. From afar, Sasha watches jaw dropped, unable to believe what she just saw. The other henchmen are also stunned and paralyzed, seeing their captain's defeat. The protagonist stares down at the captain on the floor, getting ready for his next move. With a serious look, he says joint injuries are no joke and scolds him. The young lady cannot believe he actually managed to take down Captain Boris all by himself. She wonders how anyone could be that strong and looks at him with pure admiration. Somewhere else, a guy in sunglasses is standing in an abandoned warehouse. With a phone to his ear, he seems to be taking a very important call. He reports that Captain Boris Zarov was defeated on his capture mission. On the other end of the line, the boss cannot believe it and says no one in Japan can beat him. The man describes the opponent as a mixed-race guy about 6'2" with black hair. Hearing the description, the boss remembers a legend and calls him Black Yasha. He confirms his suspicion and wonders if it could really be the famous Black Yasha. On a computer screen, a message asks if Black Yasha really emerged from the shadows. Another message confirms something went down in Akihabara and rumors spread across Tokyo. With the news spreading, someone seems to be digging deep into the case. Meanwhile, in a dark room, a mysterious girl reads about the legend of Black Yasha. She figures the rookies do not know anything and decides to investigate the case further. With that, she remembers the God of the Fist tournament that happened in the year 1999. At that tournament, a powerful man with a blue aura stood out among all the fighters, but it was at that event that a mysterious ninja named Fumakotaro appeared out of nowhere. He only fought once but made it all the way to the finals and became a legend. The young lady gets thoughtful and starts putting all the puzzle pieces together in her mind. She wonders if the legend of Fumakotaro has truly returned. With this new discovery, she gets up determined to uncover the whole truth. The girl throws on her black jacket and gets ready to head out on a new mission. Ready to go, the young woman opens her bedroom door and steps out with a goal in mind. Outside, she looks at the city and seems to have a plan forming in her head. With a serious look, she tells her dad to wait for her because she is on her way. Back in the city, our hero and Sasha arrive at a maid cave filled with girls. The guy feels a ton of secondhand embarrassment and thinks it is way too cringy. He cannot believe the place is a cafe and the young lady says it is a must-do in Japan. One of the maids guides them to a table and invites them to sit down. Seated, Sasha's they are safe, but he calls her the queen of landmines. He looks at the cave menu and gets a weird chill from the vibe of the place. The guy complains he won't be able to leave for weeks, and she says it must be the EMP. She explains that combat squads use an EMP to knock out electronics. The young lady reveals E is a weapons manufacturer and he questions her about the kidnapping. With a playful smile, she says she is the daughter of someone very important there. Suddenly, a maid wearing cat ears shows up and introduces herself as the star of the cave. She serves their food and the guy thinks he is finally getting used to otaku culture. But the maid stops him and says there is a ritual they have to do before they eat. With a smile, she asks him to repeat whatever she says and the guy gets a bad feeling. Ready to go, the young woman gets in position and makes a heart shape with her hands for him. She casts a cute spell and the guy is so shocked he can barely handle it. He asks why she does not just do it and the maid says it is CAF policy and he has no choice. Face completely red and sweating cold, he feels incredibly awkward about the whole thing. Left with no choice, the guy makes a heart with his hands and says the spell while Sasha laughs at him. The maid says thanks and the young lady calls it hilarious, but our hero is fuming with rage. Even exhausted, he eats the meal and admits that at least the food was really good. The maid comes back and asks with a smile if the meal was to his liking. She reveals there is a penalty for whoever finishes last and shows off some cat ears. The guy tenses up and the employee confirms the loser has to pay a forfeit. The loser will have to wear cat ears and end every sentence with Naya. And he panics. He asks if there's another option, but Sasha tells him just to win, and everything will be fine. With a determined look, the protagonist says if that is how it is, he is definitely going to win. With that, the two start playing cards and the young woman seems pretty confident she will win. But to his misery, the guy ends up losing and has to wear the cat ears. Out of embarrassment, he stays quiet and the maid warns that he needs to speak for the penalty to count. Angry, he says he wants another round and the young lady bursts into laughter. The girl jokes that the ears do not suit him at all and the guy swears he is going to win. When the game ends, the two leave the cafe and the maid says goodbye to her master. Outside, Sasha celebrates saying it was fun, but he did not win a single game. She asks if he is okay with missing the tourist spots and says she had a good time. As the day wraps up, the two walk together through the city streets in silence. Suddenly, he stops and says he has something important to confess to the girl. The young lady then reveals that the guys he fought were actually her dad's bodyguards. She apologizes for lying and says she snuck out of the hotel just to look around a bit. With that, she lets him off the hook, saying she will call her guards and head back to the hotel. She thanks him for the day, but suddenly a helicopter appears in the sky. With a glowing smile, the young woman seems really happy her aerial rescue has arrived. A blue-haired man shouts from the helicopter that he finally found her. The protagonist and the young lady look up shocked by the sudden appearance. With a thud, a strong hand grabs onto a surface nearby. The helicopter hovers in the air and a mysterious figure jumps down toward them. The blue-haired man scolds her for the stunt and says she caused a lot of trouble. The blue-haired man asks who the guy is that dares to get close to his princess. Angry, Sasha asks how he managed to find them there so fast. He reveals that this is a personal matter involving his beloved daughter. The man steps closer with a serious look and the vibe gets really heavy and tense. The young lady takes the blame, saying she was already on her way back, but he ignores her. With that, our hero realizes this man is actually Sasha's father. He wonders why a guy from Luxia is speaking Japanese to his daughter. The dad reveals he heard the Black Yasha had resurfaced and she gets confused. He asks if she got involved with him and our hero points to himself feeling confused. The dad says that 10 years ago the legendary mercenary vanished without a trace. He then reveals his name is Fumakotaro and the guy does not get the mix up. The man points at the guy and challenges him to a huge fight right then and there. Hatred in his eyes, he yells that they will finish the fight they started 18 years ago, but he takes a closer look, asks who he is, and the guy introduces himself as Kim Yu-sung. He asks if the young man knows Fumakotaro, but our hero denies it immediately. With that revelation, an awkward silence falls over them and the mood gets weird. He says he will spare her for now, and the young lady agrees, not understanding what is happening. The guy realizes it was all a big misunderstanding and that he just looks like Kotaro. Suddenly, the man turns around and questions how he managed to defeat Captain Boris. He remembers the big guy and apologizes, saying he got confused with the fight. The guy explains he thought he was a kidnapper, and that is why he didn't hold back. After they finish talking, Sasha's dad gets ready to leave the area, but suddenly he turns around and releases a powerful blue aura with a punch in the air. The protagonist is totally blown away by the man's display of power. Clenching his fist, Sasha's dad shows off his true strength to the guy. Sasha screams her friend Kim Yu's son's name in pure panic. The punch hits the guy's backpack and shreds his brand new manga to pieces. Seeing his manga destroyed, the protagonist gets mad and questions his action. With a smile, he says he found him interesting and challenges him to show his strength. Annoyed, the guy drops his backpack and mourns his brand new manga. Tears in his eyes, the guy says he will never forgive him for doing that. Filled with rage, he steps forward, ready for the ultimate showdown with Sasha's dad. They trade heavy punches and the impact sends out a wave of purple energy. With a serious look, the protagonist manages to block his opponent's attack. But Sasha's dad does not back down and keeps up a flurry of fast, strong strikes. He throws a powerful kick trying to hit our hero, who manages to dodge it. Feeling the impact, the guy senses the force of the blow and has to step back so he doesn't fall. The blue-haired man praises his strength and the protagonist is a bit surprised. But suddenly the man charges in again and hits him with a surprise attack mid-fight. The protagonist does not understand his behavior, and the man reveals he is a genius. He adds that a student with no training shouldn't have been able to beat Boris. To him, pulling off something like that should have been completely impossible. Because of that, the man believes he is a prodigy that only appears once every 100 years. With a determined look, our hero gets ready for his opponent's next attack. The man throws a powerful punch and unleashes a blue aura that completely wraps around him. He invites him to work for him and promises to help him bloom. The guy thinks the offer sounds like it is straight out of a shonen battle manga. With that, he is completely sure the world of Scramble Love is not a romantic comedy. He realizes the work is actually a battle webtoon and not a romance. In his mind, he remembers all the romantic comedy cliches that happened before, but now he understands things are different and the story has changed. The reason he was brought into this world and trained non-stop. The reason he keeps getting dragged into fights and suddenly has absurd strength. All of this leads him to a single conclusion about his role in this new world. The series shifted gears, going from a rom-com to a full-on battle manga. He is sure of it because the work's publisher is Jamsa Shounen magazine. In a magazine like that, trying to keep it a pure romance would be a losing battle. So the author caved to the pressure and turned the work into a battle manga. If that is what really happened, our hero starts fearing for his future. That means he will keep being surrounded by monsters and his life is on the line. Crying tears of rage, the guy yells that he will never forgive him for wrecking his manga. The two glare at each other, and the protagonist charges into the fight against Sasha's dad. Their fists clash and a massive wave of purple energy explodes on impact. Even with the force of the blow, our hero manages to block it with his arms. The blue-haired man strikes back with a combo of fast and heavy attacks. With a powerful kick, he lands a solid hit, and the guy is sent flying by the blow. The young man manages to stop himself and finds his balance so he does not fall from the force. Sasha's dad praises his strength and the protagonist is a bit surprised. But suddenly the man charges again and hits him with a sneak attack. He then reveals he is doing this because the guy is an exceptional genius. The man goes on to say a student with no training shouldn't have defeated Boris. To him, a feat like that should have been completely impossible. That is why he calls him a prodigy that only comes around once every 100 years. With a serious look, the guy keeps listening to Sasha's dad's explanation. The man focuses his energy and gets ready for his next big move. He invites him to work for him and says he will help his talent bloom. Hearing this offer, the guy is totally sure this world is not a romance webtoon. In his mind, he realizes the proposal sounds exactly like a shonen battle manga. At the start, the story really did seem like a standard regular romantic comedy. But the real reason he trained and was brought into this world was something else. The reason he always ends up getting dragged into all kinds of fights. And why he possesses an absurd strength that could be mistaken for a gag character. It all points him to one single conclusion: the series turned into a battle manga. He is sure of it because the publisher is Jamsa Shounen magazine. In a magazine like that, keeping a pure romance would be a lost cause. That is why the author gave in to editorial pressure and changed the work into a fighting manga. If that is true, he is going to stay surrounded by monsters and his life is constantly on the line.